than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news.
The United States makes a direct entry into the war with Iran, bombs 3 top Iranian nuclear sites, Natanz, Isfahan and Fordow. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu calls it a pivot in history for the Middle East. The US President Donald Trump calls the strikes on Iran a spectacular military success. He calls Iran the bully of the Middle East, who now must make peace. He adds a warning of bigger strikes in the face of any Iranian retaliation. Iran says that there are no signs of contamination after the strikes. Iran's foreign minister says that the US has violated the UN Charter. Iran says that there are no signs of contamination at the sites that have been struck by the US military. Radiation detectors have recorded no radioactive release after the strikes. Iran's foreign minister says that America violated, as I mentioned, the US Charter. The US has used 6 types of weapons for the strikes on Iran. The B-2 stealth bombers, Tomahawk cruise missiles are among the weapon systems used. Also submarines. They use some of the largest penetrator warheads ever made. 30,000-pound penetrator bombs from stealth platforms. Also Tomahawk cruise missiles launched from submarines and possibly warships. Those were used to target the 3 sites hit today. India to go ahead with evacuations from Israel. We'll bring you the latest on that process as NDTV reports from the war zone. These images are from Indian nationals who've been evacuated from Iran. Good morning and welcome. We continue to track the biggest story on earth at the moment. America has entered the war against Iran with direct strikes on 3 Iranian nuclear facilities, Natanz, Isfahan and Fordow. The strike on Fordow particularly significant. It's a facility built deep into the earth, carved into a mountainside. America, using stealth bombers, has hit that site using GBU-57 weapons, which are deep strike penetrator weapons with huge warheads, 30,000 pounds, each B-2 carrying 2 of those. That is what they used at the Fordow facility. The weapon is designed to penetrate deep underground before exploding, presumably destroying, obliterating that facility if the strikes were as successful as the US President Donald Trump claims that they have been. Isfahan and Natanz, 2 other important American facilities, were also struck. The Americans using Tomahawk cruise missiles in those particular strikes. We are told that at least 30 Tomahawk land attack cruise missiles fired from submarines and possibly warships deployed out in the Red Sea and in the Persian Gulf were used, and these struck their targets in Natanz and Isfahan as well. Iran has vowed to avenge itself, saying that all Americans are now potential targets. But is this rhetoric, or are we seeing this becoming what many people were really worried about, a larger war in the Middle East, perhaps extending elsewhere as well?
Congratulations, President Trump. Your bold decision to target Iran's nuclear facilities with the awesome and righteous might of the United States will change history. In Operation Rising Lion, Israel has done truly amazing things. But in tonight's action against Iran's nuclear facilities, America has been truly unsurpassed. It has done what no other country on earth could do. History will record that President Trump acted to deny the world's most dangerous regime the world's most dangerous weapons. His leadership today has created a pivot of history that can help lead the Middle East and beyond to a future of prosperity and peace. President Trump and I often say, peace through strength. First comes strength, then comes peace. And tonight, President Trump and the United States acted with a lot of strength. President Trump, I thank you. The people of Israel thank you. The forces of civilization thank you. God bless America. God bless Israel. And may God bless our unshakable alliance, our unbreakable faith.
The U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East.
Across to NDTV's Ankit Tyagi. Ankit, go ahead.
Shiv, as we speak, there are sirens which have now gone on in Tel Aviv, and like the protocol, we had to also run to the nearest shelter that we could find. This is, in one of the hotels, in fact, and everybody has been asked to run to this shelter. Let me very quickly tell you, like we were talking in the morning, and also show you the situation around. It's a small shelter where you would see.
All right.
As the protocol would be, in whatever situations you are in, you have to run it. All right. What you are hearing is these sirens being announcement being made that people have. I hope that you were able to capture that, which said that go to the nearest center for security. So there is an anticipation as far as the counter reaction from Iran is concerned. There are a few people still out there, and more people, in fact, coming in as we speak with what is going on here in Tel Aviv. Small space, but at this moment it's people have been instructed to reach, and even on the streets we saw very, very quickly how everything turned, and as soon as these sirens began, there are people, those who have been instructed to reach these shelters everywhere that they could.
We are live on you. Carry on with what you're seeing all around you.
Let me just show you. This is a small shelter on one of the floors of a hotel, and there are a lot of people. Those who are here, I've been instructed not to film the occupants of this shelter, so you would only see me while we are speaking. But you would,
Sorry, we've lost that signal.
Sense of what's happening in this shelter. There are people that are carrying their pets and just have run into this shelter as we speak. Now, this is, remember, the first time since morning, since the time the news came in that the United States had carried out those attacks on the nuclear facilities of Iran. For the first time in the last 4 hours that we have seen these sirens going on in Tel Aviv at this moment. As you are hearing these instructions which are sounding as well, till the time there is no all clear given, people will have to stay in these shelters. No matter where you are, what you are doing, you have to run to one of the shelters as soon as you can find
He's
them.
in the shower, my husband. Go bring him.
Your husband is in shower?
In the shower. Go bring him.
Yeah?
I cannot take him out.
He's not scared?
Of course he's scared, but he's in the shower. Would you open the door for him now?
So this lady, I mean, in fact, despite what is happening, the humorous side continues. She says that her husband is still in the shower, waiting to come to this shelter at this moment. I'm from India, ma'am.
Oh, tell me who.
Yeah, I'm from India.
India, no? India.
Yeah.
Oh, we love India. We love
All right. Let me show you. We have. Sorry, what? No pictures. All right, but.
They want to say we love India. I've been to India. We love India in Israel.
Love India.
Thank you.
The
Thank you.
Israeli loves India.
You're hearing, the conversation that we are having with our fellow occupants of this shelter, despite, and it also tells you the readiness as far as, Israel and the people of Israel are concerned. They are prepared for these kind of situations, and that is why it's a part of life. There is somebody else who is knocking on the shelter door as we speak. And he's the person who was in the shower, as I was telling you earlier. So while the situation remains quite tense outside, at least there is the sense of humor alive in the people, and everybody at this moment cramped in this. We are about 8 to 10 people, along with a few pets here in fact this shelter where we are standing at this moment, Shiv.
Those bunkers have become second nature for Israelis. It has become very much a part of their lives. Sometimes, when I was there in 2023, I saw people just walking casually into these shelters because that's what life is like in Israel. But where you are standing right now, it's interesting to see that people are still lighthearted, saying they love India. There's a little bit of humor in the air. But it's incredible because things are very different now. Bombs have been dropped on a nuclear site, 3 nuclear sites in Iran. The situation is very different from what it has been earlier.
It's very hard to understand what you are saying, Shiv, but like you were saying that the light-heartedness, and it also because tells you that this sort of training is something that Israelis are quite prepared about, and that's why it's not the first time that they're seeing a tense situation like this throughout their history, and hence are largely prepared for these kind of eventualities, and that is why in a moment as soon as the sirens went off, people in fact came in and are all right. There was Shiv, I can tell you that we don't know what is happening outside, but where we are, sorry, what are they saying? Did you hear? Shiv, I can't confirm anything at this moment, but there are some sounds which are coming in from outside the shelter where we are. Whether it is some Iranian drone or some warhead, in fact, making contact, I cannot confirm that at this moment. But there are certainly some sounds which are coming in at this moment. Instructions going on that people should stay in the shelters and shut the doors and not, in fact, venture out till the time the danger is over. It will take some time before we can confirm the nature of what has happened and whether there has been any successful penetration as far as Iranian warheads are concerned. But at this moment, the sirens going off yet again, and while we speak, we are in this bunker. You will keep hearing in fact this sound of the sirens which is coming in continuously, and people have been asked to quickly rush to wherever they could. It's a small space. Let me just describe it very quickly. It's a small space where we are, and while I'm speaking, there are about 15 people, those who have joined me inside this bunker, and everybody's hooked on to their local channels, and in fact every phone is buzzing with those emergency signals telling people to reach the nearest bunker as we speak, Shiv.
Ankit, we're getting information right now that I hope you can hear me, Ankit, and I'll keep this short. We're getting breaking news that air sirens have been blaring in Israel after Iran has fired some missiles. So there are initial reports that Iran has fired some missiles towards Israel at this time.
That's right, and like we were speaking earlier today, that since the time, it was local time, right around 3:30 or 4, when this announcement was made that strikes have been carried out by United States, and at this moment, the local time, let me very quickly tell you, we are at about 7:45, 7:45 local time in Tel Aviv. So it's almost about 4.5 hours since the time these strikes were confirmed by the President of the United States and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, that we are seeing some sort of retaliation coming in from Iran, and hence, in fact, all across Tel Aviv and in Israel at this moment, sirens are blaring where people have been asked to rush to the nearest bunkers. Such bunker where we are at this moment, Shiv.
All right, Ankit, you take care, and we'll come back to you in a little while from now. The big breaking news now coming in is that there are sirens sounding across Israel because of another Iranian missile launch. These presumably are the first Iranian missile launches which have taken place after the American attack on 3 Iranian nuclear reactors today. This is the first military response of the Iranians. The Iranians have threatened to hit American targets as well. We do not know if that's going to take place. I'm now joined by Zahak Tanvir. Thank you, sir, very much for being with us. Iran says that they're going to hit American targets as well. This would mean a massive escalation of the situation in the West. Realistically, do you see that as being a coherent Iranian policy at this stage, given the disproportionate, military scenario in West Asia? America far stronger than where Iran stands at this juncture.
Thank you for having me on. This morning, this is a fantastic news which we have heard this morning. 20 years of continuous engineering to make the nuclear weapons, and $1 trillion invested in these nuclear weapons, and the bloody conflicts which we have been watching in the Middle East have crumbled in just 1 hour of the bombing. So this has been one of the fantastic news which has been coming. But at the same time, the Iran may lash out with the proxies ignited. The proxies will definitely be ignited in the Middle East, and the missiles will be flying, and there will be chaos. But I believe, and a lot of experts believe, that this pain will definitely be a short-term pain. And there will be the militias, there will be the proxies from the Hormuz to the Red Sea, from Baghdad to the Golan Heights. And but right now the regime is humiliated, it is cornered. But the regime will do definitely its task to put the chin up. It will definitely show itself facing the challenges and trying to portray itself as one of the champions of the Muslim world. So the regime will definitely do its task to put the militias in work. And we know that there are almost 70 plus militias in the Middle East, and there are almost 70,000 plus fighters in the entire Middle East, from Pakistan to Afghanistan. They have been hired for $600 per month, and we have the militias from Iraq and Syria as well, and the militias in Yemen, the Houthis. So there will be automatic, response to what has happened, and we can expect that. But I believe that U.S. and Israel is prepared for that.
Mr. Tanvir, in terms of what the U.S. or Iran or Israel may do next, do you believe an intensification of military action is inevitable? And do you believe that military action would now be towards regime change, given the fact that all of these nuclear sites have already been repeatedly hit. We are now moving beyond attacks on nuclear bases, is the basic point that I'm trying to make.
In fact, the United States right now has 400 plus combat aircrafts and 6 Navy vessels and almost like 570 Tomahawks. So you can expect the military response in the Middle East, but it comes when Iran will be attacking the U.S. assets in Bahrain or in other places. And the B-52s are also active. But when it comes to the question of the regime change, I believe from the day one, the regime change is not the priority. The priority was to denuclearize Iran, to just get rid of all the nuclear facilities, to get rid of Natanz, Isfahan, and the Fordow. Fordow was the last one. Natanz was the ultimate goal. So once this is achieved, the deterrence is done. So I think the regime change is not the task. And another point which we have to understand is that regime change is not a knife through butter in the Middle East. You know, the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei is not just the political leader; he's also being the spiritual leader to all the Shiites worldwide. So the Shiites worldwide will be ignited. They will be in the rage to avenge what will happen to Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. So the regime change is not the primary. It was not the primary task, but the primary objective of this was to get rid of the nuclear facilities.
Taneja also with us. Kabir, could you reflect on these American attacks, what they signify, the first American attacks on Iran? It is a pivotal moment in the history of the Middle East.
Yeah, Vishnu, it is. I think it did catch a lot of people by surprise because the arguments peppered prior to the attack were, of course, that the President Trump is going to take 2 weeks to decide. There were a lot of pressure inside DC as well to not go into this direction. We have to remember that from a domestic point of view, his entire campaigns, political campaigns, have been based on not entering wars. Presumably the packaging of this action will be done from a tactical point of view, that we were only taking out nuclear sites and not instigating a full-scale war with Iran or the Iranian people. And you know, but it's been interesting because some of the initial reactions that we are seeing, for example, is that Iranian response is coming still directly towards Israel. Israel has said that it's closing its airspace because missiles have been detected that have been launched from Iran, not towards any other American targets, but towards Israel itself. So there's a possible calculation taking place in Tehran also that a full-scale engagement with the Americans at this point of time is not something they may be able to absorb beyond a point. But I think the next 24 to 48 hours will be very, very critical to see what direction the Iranians take this in. Because from the American point of view, I think what Donald Trump wanted to achieve is striking the nuclear facilities, that he has been able to do so.
All right, Kabir, just for the benefit of our viewers, and before I come back to the two of you, I just want to explain what exactly has taken place. The United States has struck 3 massive Iranian nuclear facilities in Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. They've used deep penetration warheads in Fordow, which was carved into a mountainside. Natanz and Isfahan were hit by Tomahawk cruise missiles. After thinking about what his options were for a period of time, the US President Donald Trump has now said that, look, the US will be a part of these operations. Israel has welcomed this. There are signs of the first retaliation against Israel taking place. Air raid sirens have been sounded across Israel. People have been moved into bunkers at this stage, including my colleague Ankit Tyagi, who is in Tel Aviv at this juncture. The big question is what happens next. Iran has already threatened America, saying that all Americans are legitimate targets at this stage. We are waiting to get more coherent responses from Iran, perhaps more high-ranking officials on what Iran tends to, or plans to do. But just in terms of what Iran has been saying consistently over a period of time is that if the US gets involved, then the US becomes a legitimate military target as well. So that's where the situation presently stands. Let's go back to Zahak Tanvir at this stage. We're talking about diplomacy, and Iran said that there was a promising nuclear deal which could be arrived at. They were saying this to their European interlocutors just a couple of days back. But America or Israel aren't waiting for those conversations. This being the case, what do you actually expect by way of conversation? Anything at all? Or essentially a statement from Iran saying, we want this to end? Because it just strikes me that all this conversation on diplomacy or the conversation on we cannot converse if you hit us, it's fairly redundant at this stage. They have been hit. So what happens now?
The conversations have been happening for a long time. So the conversations actually gave Iran the buying time. So Iran took the buying time with the conversations. But right now, after the destruction of the nuclear sites, I believe the diplomacy will swing in, but there will be no such result with such talks. So there will be obviously the proxy retaliation, the cyber attacks, and we expect that there will be internal unrest inside Iran. So the people are expecting for the regime change. But as we talked about, the regime change is not an easy task. So the diplomacy will swing in. The Britain, the Germany, and the France were talking about the nuclear talks were in, but it did not actually work out for Iran.
Breaking news now coming in is that Iran has launched fresh attacks on Israel. There are unconfirmed reports of strikes having taken place in Haifa. Several explosions have been heard over Tel Aviv as well. We aren't clear whether these are impacts of Iranian ballistic missiles or Israel launching its interceptor missiles to take out ballistic and drone threats, as has been the case over the last several days. We'll go back to NDTV's Ankit Tyagi in a little while from now. But let me just continue this conversation with Kabir Taneja. Kabir, what are the regional implications of what America has done?
Look, the regional implications can be critical. We don't know if Iran is boxed in its thinking, in its strategic thinking enough to mobilize its word that it has said, which is targeting American facilities wherever they are. There are about 40,000 American soldiers peppered across the Middle East. The U.S. Fifth Fleet is in Bahrain. The largest airbase is in Qatar. But a couple of months ago, some of these countries, I think, had made it clear that if the US is planning to attack Iran, that the bases on their soil will not be used as staging grounds. So we have seen the B-2 bombers basically coming in from the Pacific, and we have seen cruise missiles coming in from submarines. So basically a very sea-based operation and air-based operation. So the idea was to basically not get the Arab countries in the middle specifically involved, because if they get involved, it's a global repercussions. For example, if the Iranians decide to block or mine the Strait of Hormuz, global oil prices will go through the roof. There will be chaos in global economy and so on and so forth. The implications can be quite harsh, as we also saw during the first Gulf War, for example. So a lot of the Arab countries like the UAE and Saudi Arabia are on a completely different trajectory when it comes to what their national interest is. Economic growth is their national interest at this point of time, which is why Saudi Arabia signed a normalization deal with Iran, brokered by China, precisely not to get involved or not to be a target in this kind of conflagration.
All right. So just in terms of information now coming in, this is according to Austin Defender. Approximately 25 to 30 ballistic missiles were fired in the latest barrage by Iran. This is after the American strikes. These were targeting Israel. There have been roughly 10 impacts in the north and center of Israel. There is some imagery which is coming in. We cannot independently corroborate this at this stage. Presumably, Israel's missile interceptors would have intercepted several other targets as well. We do not know about the extent of damage on the ground. There are sirens which can be heard over Tel Aviv at this stage. Let's listen in. from Tel Aviv that we received just a little while back. The audio absolutely clear. There is sounds of, it's difficult to say if that's sound of an impact or it's a sound of missiles, interceptors being launched, presumably both. We'll try and come back to the very latest situation in Tel Aviv. The information that we now have is that Iran has launched strikes against Israel, the first Iranian strikes against Israel since the US bombed 3 Iranian nuclear facilities. At this juncture, we do not know if Iran is also attempting to strike American bases across the Middle East. That's something that we now need to wait and see. I'm trying to see if we can roll out that report from NDTV's Ankit Tyagi, who's in a bunker in Tel Aviv at this juncture. Do we have that report? We should be getting that report up very, very soon. But what you can see and hear, and I'm going to play out these sounds once again, gives you an idea of the situation right now with Iran having started the process of retaliation. Remember, it was very early this morning that American stealth bombers struck the Fordow facility of Iran using deep penetration warheads, which took out the Fordow reactor. There have also been strikes using Tomahawk cruise missiles in Natanz and Isfahan as well, 2 other Iranian nuclear sites. My colleague Ankit Tyagi is in Tel Aviv at this juncture, and just a few minutes back sent us this report from a bunker.
You know, as we speak, there are sirens which have now gone on in Tel Aviv, and like the protocol, we had to also run to the nearest shelter that we could find. This is, you know, in one of the hotels, in fact, and everybody has been asked to run to this shelter. Let me very quickly tell you, like we were talking in the morning, and also show you the situation around. You know, it's a small shelter. I hope that you were able to capture that, which said that go to the nearest center for security. So there is an anticipation as far as the counter reaction from Iran is concerned. There are a few people still out there, and more people, in fact, coming in as we speak with you know what is going on here in Tel Aviv. Small space, but at this moment it's people have been instructed to reach, and even on the streets we saw very, very quickly how everything turned, and as soon as these sirens began, you know, there are people, those who have been instructed to reach these shelters, you know, everywhere that they could. There is no all clear given. People will have to stay in these shelters. No matter where you are, what you are doing, you have to run to one of the shelters as soon as you can find them.
He's in the shower, my husband. Go bring him.
Your husband is in shower?
In the shower. Go bring him.
Yeah?
I cannot take him out.
He's not scared?
He's of course he's scared, but he's in the shower. Would you open the door for him now?
So this lady, I mean, in fact, despite what is happening, the humorous side continues. She says that her husband is still in the shower, waiting to come to this shelter at this moment. I'm from India, ma'am.
Oh, tell me who.
Yeah, I'm from India.
India, no? India.
Yeah.
How did you India? We love.
All right. Let me show you. We have. Sorry, what? No pictures. All right. But
they want to say we love India. I've been to India. We love India and Israel.
Love India. Thank you.
The
Thank
Israeli loves India.
You're hearing, you know, the conversation that we are having with our fellow occupants of this shelter, despite, and it also tells you the readiness as far as you know, Israel and the people of Israel are concerned. They are prepared for these kind of situations, and that is why it's a part of life. There is somebody else who is knocking on the shelter door as we speak. And he's the person who was in the shower, as I was telling you earlier. So while the situation remains quite tense outside, at least there is the sense of humor alive in the people, and everybody at this moment cramped in this. We are about 8 to 10 people, along with a few pets here. As we speak, there are sirens which have now gone on in Tel Aviv, and like the protocol, we had to also run to the nearest shelter that we could find. This is, in one of the hotels, in fact, and everybody has been asked to run to this shelter. Let me very quickly tell you, like we were talking in the morning, and also show you the situation around. It's a small shelter. I hope that you were able to capture that, which said that go to the nearest center for security. So there is an anticipation as far as the counter reaction from Iran is concerned. There are a few people still out there, and more people, in fact, coming in as we speak with what is going on here in Tel Aviv. Small space, but at this moment it's people have been instructed to reach, and even on the streets we saw very, very quickly how everything turned, and as soon as these sirens began, there are people, those who have been instructed to reach these shelters everywhere that they could. There is no all clear given. People will have to stay in these shelters. No matter where you are, what you are doing, you have to run to one of the shelters as soon as you can find them.
He's in the shower, my husband. Go bring him.
Your husband is in shower?
In the shower. Go bring him.
Yeah?
I cannot take him out.
He's not scared?
Of course he's scared, but he's in the shower. Would you open the door for him now?
So this lady, in fact, despite what is happening, the humorous side continues. She says that her husband is still in the shower, waiting to come to this shelter at this moment.
All right, let's just go back to Ankit Tyagi live. That was a report about 15 minutes back. We've got Ankit back live at this stage. Ankit, what's happening around you?
All right, I can tell you that the chatter is that there have been 100 of volleys which have been lodged towards Israel, different parts of Israel, including Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. I cannot, at this moment go out and show you anything because we are in this bunker, and we have been told that since it's a big barrage that has been lobbed towards Israel and the main cities of Israel, that would mean that we will have to wait in this bunker for a while now. A lot of people here waiting anxiously. I was speaking to them. They were saying that it may take a few hours before that all clear sign could be given, and we could go out and see any sort of damage which have taken place in the capital, Tel Aviv, or any other part of Iran. At this moment, the sirens are still on. People have been asked to stay in bunkers, and that's where we are at this moment. I will try and see if I can get in a word from one of the occupants of this bunker and see if they would want to speak. Can I just quickly ask you for how long will we have to stay in this bunker?
Until they will tell us to leave.
Yeah?
Until the Iranians stop bombing us.
So it could be few hours, right? Before
I hope not. I really hope not.
Half an hour.
Usually it's half an hour.
Usually it's half an hour.
But if they will, now they want to attack us as seriously.
Normally it's up to half an hour. Today it looks like it's a little bit longer.
So, Shiv, as you were hearing from the people, those who are in this shelter with me, this seems to be a much larger barrage which has been, in fact, launched by Iran towards Israel, towards the capital city, Tel Aviv, and other places here in Israel. And that is why there could be a much longer wait as far as these shelters are concerned. But for a lot of people here, they are waiting. I spoke to them earlier as well, in full support of what happened from the United States, the operation that took place from the United States with the bombing of those sites as well. And they are saying that hopefully that is the lesson enough for Iran to stop any kind of hostilities, which at this moment doesn't seem to be happening, and it's only going to spiral from here, is what the sense among the local people is, that once this kind of a large counter attack which has taken place from Iran, where various cities of Israel have been targeted, including the capital Tel Aviv, it seems that it will will be a while before people can get out, and shelters, in fact, doors are open. We are still waiting. There have been some loud thuds that we have heard from within the shelter, but any sort of confirmation from the ground will have to come from the Israeli Defense Forces, or only when we are allowed to, in fact, move out of these shelters to assess the damage, if any, that has taken place here in Tel Aviv.
All right, Ankit, we're going to stay with you right now. And what, let me share a little bit of information with you, which we are being able to pick up. There have been dozens of Iranian missiles which have possibly been fired across Israel at this stage. There have been some reports of impacts in Tel Aviv, some reports of impacts which have taken place in Haifa as well. We do know that Israeli interceptors have been hitting many of the incoming targets. But just describe for our viewers who are now tuning in what you heard approximately half an hour back when the sirens went on and you were asked to actually get into that bunker. All right, I think we've lost that line with Ankit. We'll come back to him in a little while from now. What I can do, however, is play out these images, full frame, right, of the Tel Aviv skyline, and you can hear a lot over here. All right, I'm joined now by Ricky Rosen, who's reporting for NDTV. Ricky, thank you very much for being with us. Where exactly are you right now, and can you give us an idea of the strikes taking place?
I am at the outskirts of Tel Aviv. You can see behind me the building that was hit 5 days ago. You can see it?
Yeah, go ahead.
And we're not allowed to report on the exact places where the missiles hit, but they are saying that 30 missiles were sent and at least 10 fell in places mostly in central Israel in the area of Tel Aviv.
Could you give us an idea of what you've been hearing? There are presumably a lot of sirens, presumably people running to bunkers right now. Because it is a very intense attack, and as I understand it, the most intense attack by Iran in the last 30 odd hours. So could you just tell us what's been developing around you in, let's say, the last half an hour?
In the last half an hour, there were 2 or 3 series of sirens just in my area, but it included throughout the north and the south of Israel, which presents a challenge, to say the least, to the Iron Dome defensive system that is supposed to intercept these missiles. And that's why we're hearing of at least 10 missile hits in various parts of the country. The picture that you're showing now is on the coast, one of the coastal towns, but we're not allowed to identify which, but it's in the area of central Israel.
And Ricky, just by way of information, what are people around you saying now that America has joined the conflict?
Most Israelis welcome it because this was what was promised by the Prime Minister Netanyahu, that he would start the war and either he or Trump would finish it. And it seems now that Trump has joined and destroyed the 3 major nuclear plants. I think that Israelis are also very worried because they see the power that is being unleashed by Iran, that, as you said, is more than has been in the last 9 days in every part of the country.
Is it almost inevitable now, and this is just me asking you for your personal opinion, that there would be more Israeli strikes on Iran right away? They may even have started right now, given the fact that Iran has launched these attacks, very intense ones.
I think the Israeli Air Force took a pause after coordinating with the American Air Force, but now I'm sure that they will be going back to hit some of the sites from which missiles were launched.
All right, Ricky, hold your thought for half a second. We've got our other correspondent, Ankit Tyagi. He's just out of a bunker right now in another part of Tel Aviv and joins us now. Ankit, go ahead. Have the air siren, has the all clear been sounded?
That's right, Vishnu. You know, we just came out of the shelter that we were at this moment, about 18 odd people in a small shelter. But as we speak, the air raid sirens are off. In fact, the message on the phones show that the emergency at this moment is over. We yet don't know what are the areas and if there is any damage which Tel Aviv has taken at this moment. But I can tell you, let me just try and if I turn around my camera, I will be able to show you from this that people are back, on the streets. Cars have started moving, and as soon as the air raid siren went off, it's more or less, business as usual in Tel Aviv. But we will have to wait and see for the confirmation from the defense forces on the areas and the targets which have been hit, and also if there is any damage which the city has sustained. This is, of course, at this moment just past 8 o'clock. It is about 8:15 here, 8:15, and half an hour almost we had to stay inside the shelters all across. But life back to normalcy more or less here in Tel Aviv, as you see the vehicles moving on the streets. But because when the air raid sirens went off, everybody, even if you were on the road, people were asked to, in fact, very quickly reach some of the safe shelters. And as we speak, people are emerging from those safe shelters, Vishnu, and going about their normal life.
Isn't it bizarre, Ankit, that just 10 minutes back you were in a shelter, surrounded by people, all chit-chatting, as if, this is something that just happens. You go to the bunker and then it's all over and you're out back. This is the way it's been now for several weeks in Israel. You're in and out of that shelter constantly.
Probably for the first time in my life, I have experienced anything like this, Vishnu, where people so nonchalantly were taking this whole thing. It's part of their routine. It's part of their daily life. And they have been trained for this right from the beginning. Like you were saying, of course, heightened tensions in the past few weeks. But remember, this is not the first conflict that Israel is in fact facing. And continuously, it's more or less been a part of life for the people. I was talking to them, though worried. I mean, their family members all across worried as soon as any thud was heard. Everybody was on the WhatsApp group trying to see if their family members are all right. But, still chatting, still joking around. An old gentleman played out some Raj Kapoor songs on his phone as well. So while the situation on the outside is tense, but this is the kind of preparedness that this country has seen with its citizens, almost prepared every moment for these kind of situations, and they deal with it as a part of their daily life.
All right, and Ankit, it's all quiet now. Cars back out on the roads. Just in terms of another piece of information which our Indian viewers would certainly want to talk about, and thanks very much for showing us, those cars on the road. People get off the road, get into bunkers, get out of bunkers, and then life slowly starts resuming. The information we have is that the plan to evacuate Indian nationals from Israel is underway. We don't know the exact stage where this is. This would be the evacuation of Indians from the land route. This is an important piece of information that we'd like to share with our viewers. It comes in addition to the news we've been reporting over the last 24 odd hours of the evacuations of Indian nationals from Tehran and other parts of Iran, I should say, which have been taking place. So that is underway. We'll give you an update of that in a little while from now. But there are impacts which have taken place in Tel Aviv and perhaps elsewhere. Ankit isn't allowed to reveal the exact location of the impact in Israel, but I think the footage now available does indicate that there have been some impacts as well. Ankit, were you able to actually hear the sound of the impacts and perhaps the sound of interceptors being launched? Because that's a very, very loud sound as well. Just describe to us, if you can, if you were able to hear what was happening outside.
There were a few loud thuds that were heard inside that bunker. I can also tell you on the social media here, there are some visuals of some places which have taken a hit. But like you pointed out, Vishnu, we exactly don't know the locations. It will only have to be confirmed by the Israeli Defense Forces before, in fact, it can be revealed and certainly said that, which are the areas which have been impacted. But some loud thuds for sure, which were some anxious moments as far as the people in the bunker were concerned. But we yet don't know whether there was any contact on the ground here in Tel Aviv or those were interceptors doing their job. But most people did say that this is possibly the largest volley which has come in from Iran, and we spent about half an hour, 35 minutes in that bunker. Usually they said it's just about 10 to 15 minutes and then you are out. So it also gives you a sense of the increasing tensions and the hostilities, and of course the increasing rate of retaliation as far as Iran is concerned. Now remember, it becomes also important because both Prime Minister Netanyahu here in Israel and US President Donald Trump has said that if there is a retaliation from Iran, things will escalate. Now they are waiting to see what happens in the kind of response that this volley, this latest round from Iran meets from the Israeli side.
All right, we've also got Ricky Rosen, who's been reporting for NDTV and will be working very closely with us. Thanks, Ricky, once again for being with us. It's all clear now. I presumably some cars back on the roads right now. Just for the benefit of our viewers here in India, can you describe your life for the last couple of weeks where you're in and out of a bunker, in and out of air raid sirens?
It's been a difficult week of sleeping in my clothes because I have to rush out of the house to the neighborhood bomb shelter. Just this morning, 3 hours ago, when it was announced that the Americans had in fact bombed Iran, the Home Front Command changed its directives to all Israelis, prohibiting any gatherings of people inside or outside, closing all schools, government offices, stores. And so what Ankit said about seeing people coming back to life, they're only coming somewhat back to life because there's no place to go in terms of places of work, schools, and shopping. We've had to go shopping beforehand to stock up on essential goods.
All right. And what exactly is the protocol at this stage? You are informed by SMS, right, of alerts in case, is that the way it works?
Yes, there is an app from the Home Front Command that tells you what is happening in your area and any other areas. As Ankit said, everybody was checking their phones for the vicinities of where their loved ones are located. So you can put many locations on this app, and then you are informed of when you have to go to the shelters and when there is actual missile fire in these places. And then you have to wait until the app shows you an all clear and you're allowed to leave the protected spaces.
All right, I'm just going to come back to you, Ricky, in a little while from now. What we'd like to do is just remind our viewers of the big story right now. In the early hours of this morning, the United States became a party to the conflict in West Asia. 3 Iranian nuclear sites were struck: Natanz, Isfahan, and Fordow. Fordow was, there was a great deal of speculation, on the possibility of a strike on Fordow. Very important because there was a sense that it was closely involved in the enrichment of uranium which could have been used in an Iranian nuclear weapon. Now, Israel didn't have the ability, without the actual deployment of ground forces, of potentially getting in to Fordow to take out that particular reactor, affiliated aspects of that plant. It's been carved into a mountainside. The only real weapon system, feasible weapon system, which could be used for this would be the GBU-57. It's a massive ordnance, 30,000 pounds. Each B-2 stealth bomber, which the US deployed in this mission, carries, I believe, up to 2 of these massive bombs. These are the biggest bombs out there. They are designed primarily to penetrate deep inside even reinforced concrete before they explode. And given the size of the warhead itself, the explosion would be massive. The US says that the attacks have been successful. You can see animation of that weapon, it's striking down, piercing concrete before actually exploding. Now, as far as how the US got into this area, the B-2 itself, there were initially some signs, information coming in that there were a group of B-2s, a number of B-2s flying in over the Pacific, which would have been deployed from Whitman Air Base. They would have refueled in California, refueled in Hawaii, refueled midair before being deployed over Iran. It now turns out, according to real experts, and I'm quoting Tyler Rogove, that nearly the entire available B-2 fleet was used in this gambit. If you factor in the decoys in the Pacific, a portion of the tiny fleet is down for maintenance or in the depot at any time. So in other words, it's quite possible that the aircraft which actually struck Iran were deployed elsewhere. We do know that some B-2s had been deployed in Diego Garcia, which is an island which the US has a major basin in the Indian Ocean region. It's quite possible that they were used in the strike. The US also striking Natanz and Isfahan using Tomahawk land attack cruise missiles. We don't have very many details of the extent of the strikes, but there are one or two important points. One point which we need to talk about a lot more, and that point is this. At this juncture, AFP, quoting their sources, indicates that in the broader Middle East or West Asia, there is no initial evidence of radiation. This was, of course, a big worry. All of Natanz, Isfahan, and Fordow are under International Atomic Energy Agency regulators monitoring. So therefore, if there was evidence of radiation emanating post these strikes, by now we would have known of it. At this juncture, fortunately, it appears that that is not the case. The second important strand in this, what does Iran do next? We do know that Iran has threatened to hit American interests, but they have already struck Israel once again. At this juncture, we do not know about any attempted Iranian strikes on the several American bases which exist in the region. We've got more reports. I think we've got Ankit's report now, which we can play out as well. Let's take a look. Can actually, before we bring in Ankit Tyagi's report in a little while from now, is I'm actually going to walk across to the big screen in a little while to tell you about the flight radar situation, because that's quite important. So I'd like to do that in just the next few moments, if possible, to actually go across to that big screen. Let's have flight radar up on the screen, because that's important. Let's play out this report, which I had from a few moments. All right. All right. Okay. Breaking news now coming in at this stage. We are shifting track completely, and I am what I can share with you at this juncture is that there has been a breakthrough in the investigations in the Pahalgam case. Remember, 26 people were killed in the Pahalgam case, which triggered the attacks by India on Pakistan. The National Investigating Agency has got details of the 3 Pahalgam attackers. They have been confirmed that the attackers were Pakistani nationals. This is huge news coming in at this juncture. we are for the moment moving away from the news of the American strikes on Iran, moving into news on the Pahalgam attack case. My colleague Nazir Masoodi joins us. Nazir, what do you have?
Well, NIA has said that they have arrested 2 persons who have given shelter to these terrorists who have carried out Pahalgam massacre on 22nd of April. They have been identified as Bashir and Parvez. Both have given shelter to them, these 3 Pakistani terrorists, in Dok's hutments in the jungle area, and they were knowing they are Pakistani terrorists. So this is, in a sense, a major lead, because after 2-month-long investigations by the NIA, for the first time, they have come out with this first such clue, which can give them more details about those terrorists, because they are still at large, those terrorists, after carrying out that horrific massacre. So this is first major breakthrough into the investigation into the terror attack in Pahalgam attack, because for last 2 months, everybody was asking, where are those terrorists who have carried out the attack and killed 26 innocent people, including 25 tourists. But then there was a larger question, how could they survive? Why they have taken food or the shelter? But for the first time, NIA has come out with a statement that 2 people who have sheltered these terrorists, given them shelter in a hutment, have been arrested. They have been identified as Bashir, Ahmed, and Parvez. So investigations are on, and we have to see whether it would lead to further, arrests or tracking down these attackers. Because for last
just
2 months,
get you once again, can you name the 3 Pakistani terrorists who have been named by the NIA in the Pahalgam terror attacks? Bashir, Parvez, and who else?
No, these and Parvez are locals who have given shelter to 3 Pakistani terrorists. We know their pictures. Yeah. These are 2 people who have been arrested for sheltering, harboring these terrorists in Pahalgam, and they, according to NIA, that they've had Bashir Ahmed Jothar of Batkot Pahalgam, and Parvez Ahmed Jothar and Bashir Ahmed Jothar of Hill Park Pahalgam, and they have disclosed during the this interrogation identities of 3.
In a little while from now, once we get those names, once again we'll repeat it. But the headlines at this juncture, it is 11 a.m. in the morning on what is a critical day for billions across the world. Let's roll the headlines. The big story that we are tracking: the US's direct entry into the Iran-Israel war. Donald Trump goes where the US never has, with stealth bombers dropping hell on Iran. Iran has retaliated. They have hit Israel as well. But this is the biggest story, with the US now directly bombing 3 Iranian nuclear sites, Natanz, Isfahan, and Fordow.
Indeed, Vishnu, and air sirens over Israel are being heard right now, and Iranians have fired missiles towards Israel, and those air sirens is what are taking place. 2 sets of missiles have been fired from the Iranian side, and some of those visuals are going to come in as well in terms of what could be another round of escalation in this conflict.
All right, just in the last 5 minutes, it's an all clear which has been sounded in Tel Aviv, but there was a barrage of at least 30 ballistic missiles from Iran which were fired. Residents of Tel Aviv and other areas were in bunkers. But at this juncture, the important news coming in from Iran is that there are no signs of nuclear contamination after the American strikes, with the Iranian foreign minister saying that the US violated the UN Charter. But that's the initial reaction. Iran also threatening to carry out further attacks. Will they attack American bases in West Asia and the Middle East is what we don't know.
Yes, US's 6-pronged weapon attack on Israel. NDTV has been getting you all the details on the latest on this. The 6 types of weapons that have been used for the strikes on Iran: B-2 Spirit stealth bombers, Tomahawk cruise missiles, amongst other weapons that have been used by US.
India is going ahead with evacuations from Israel of Indian nationals. We'll be bringing you details of that. It's a complicated mission as the situation in West Asia hots up. My colleague Ankit Tyagi in Israel right now in Tel Aviv. His reports from inside a bunker as those air raid sirens went off. There have been impacts by Iranian ballistic missiles in Israel, but the all clear has been sounded. People are out on the roads. NDTV reporting from the war zone.
All right, viewers, this is our rolling coverage of the biggest story that's broken around the world. Shiv and I, Vishnu and I will keep getting you all the details of this. Vishnu, you've been reporting extensively on this over the course of this entire conflict, the kind of weaponry that has been used, how unprecedented this attack is, and how it's likely to reshape this entire region going forward. First of all, talk to us about the last 2 hours, the kind of attack this has been, and then we of course walk our viewers who are tuning in right now to how this is likely to reshape the war and the conflict itself going forward.
You know, Gauri, this is a pivotal moment in the history of the world. This is the first time that America has gone into this particular crisis with military strikes on not 1 or 2 but 3 Iranian nuclear reactors. Donald Trump was vacillating on this. He was, let's give it a few more days, let's give it a few more weeks, let's see what finally takes place. But now America has gone in on these strikes. There was a big elaborate social media sort of effort to try and confuse perhaps, suggesting that the bombers, which were B-2 stealth bombers, were being routed across the Pacific. In fact, it now appears that the bombers which were used may have been deployed from elsewhere. Irrespective, they have used massive ordnance on the Fordow facility. They have used Tomahawk cruise missiles, at least 30, which were fired from submarines and possibly warships in the Persian Gulf region, which have targeted Natanz and Isfahan as well. There is no nuclear radiation which has taken place. The big question now is what will Iran do next? Iran has already been making threats, saying that they're going to be taking out targets of the Americans, which have several bases in the region.
Yes.
They don't appear to have done that so far, but they have certainly struck at Israel in the last hour or so with multiple impact points of Iranian ballistic missiles. Presumably, dozens of Iranian missiles have been intercepted as well.
Absolutely. And let's get in Mohammad Ghazali to tell us more in terms of what could be the kind of Iranian response here. In fact, the Iranian foreign minister said that with US now walking into this conflict, it changes the dimensions completely. Ghazali, you've been working the phones. Talk to us about what is likely to happen from the Iranian side. As Vishnu also said, right now, some set of missiles have come in on several Israeli cities. We are still evaluating and getting you in terms of what is the kind of impact. Till then, talk to us about what are your sources telling you in terms of what could be the Iranian impact and Iranian response to this.
See, Gauri, Iran has not launched any attacks against US bases or US properties anywhere in the Middle East, considering the fact that US wanted a regime change. That was one of the aims of the war which Israel had launched against Iran. But that regime change didn't happen, but an attack on nuclear site happened. Now, sources are confirming that US administration had already informed Iran that they are not going for a regime change. They are not going to attack on Ayatollah Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, but certainly they want a denuclearized Iran. That is why this attack. In a sense now, Iran doesn't want to be in a rush. That's why their first attack or their first response had been against Israel and no such attack against US bases, because the US bases are there in multiple Middle Eastern countries and some of them are very close allies of Iran. And that is why Iran is in a catch-22 situation as well, that it doesn't want to rub its own allies on the wrong side. Iran also knows that it's alone in the region. There has been no support as such when it comes to the military support from any of its Middle Eastern neighbors. Even Russia and China have only given verbal support, support or condemnation of the attacks on its nuclear facilities earlier by Israel. But even there have been meeky response even now when US has launched those attacks overnight. So as of now, it is also believed that Iran never sort of gets into a war in a rush. It goes for a war of attrition. It wants to drag it for as many days as it can, and it will also be a threat for all the US tourists or or army personnel present in the Middle East region. It will also wait and watch because the back channel doors for negotiations are also open. Its UN envoy in the United Nations has appealed for a strict action against the United States, which is a signatory of NPT, and despite that, its own nuclear facilities were attacked by United States. So all these suggest that perhaps Iran is still in that wait and watch mode, that it will pursue the negotiations as well, but it will continue to retaliate against Israel, but not United States as of now.
Right. And before I get in, Ricky, as well on this, Vishnu, I want to come to you first in terms of how the flight activity is likely to change in this entire region. We know airspace of Israel and Iran are shut, but talk to us about how the entire flight activity will change, because this impacts passengers around the world, millions and millions of people.
Well, I dare say it's not changed a great deal because, you know, Iranian airspace has been shut, as has airspace across this entire region that you have on the screen. Can we just zoom out a little bit, zoom out of this particular image just a bit, because there are a couple of important points that I'd like to explain. For starters, let's focus on air traffic out of India right now. Remember, Indian Airlines cannot fly over Pakistani airspace. What you are actually seeing right now are foreign airlines which are allowed to fly over Pakistan. So these foreign airlines are flying over, that's fine, let's leave it over there. These foreign airlines are flying over Pakistani airspace. Many of them are flying up north to Tajikistan, across Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, over the Caspian, into Azerbaijan, and then the north of Turkey, near Istanbul, before they're crossing over close to the Bosphorus and into Europe. So that's one route which is being taken. But another route which is common, particularly in the case of Indian carriers which aren't flying over Pakistani airspace, is that they're swinging south, as has been the case for a while right now. They're flying over the North Arabian Sea, and a lot of them are flying, and this is actually the heaviest air corridor right now over Saudi Arabia, and aircraft are swinging far clear west of Israel over here, and they are flying over Egyptian airspace, crossing the Mediterranean, and are moving north. But I really wanted you to freeze, please, and zoom out on that image, because I had a point to make. If you can zoom out on this image, what I really wanted to talk about, and move the picture up a little bit, right? Yes, please, if we can just stay there for a moment. What I would like to talk about is this. This is Yemen over here. This is where there is that Houthi situation which has existed for a long period of time. Therefore, you've got two areas. And Gauri, this is interesting over here, is that all of Yemen over here, no aircraft can operate in this area because of the Houthi threat which exists in this particular area, and no aircraft can operate in this particular area because of the ongoing situation between Israel and Iran, US now involved. Therefore, in between lies Saudi Arabia, and this is now the densest corridor for air traffic around the world. Yes, there is another route north of Iraq, north of or alongside Turkey, which is also being used, as we can see here, but it's Iranian airspace, which was a primary flight route, which has been shut down now for days, and this sort of scenario continues right now. It is a nightmarish situation at one level. Flight delays perhaps will continue to take place. They have been over the last period of time, but that's what the situation now is at this stage with regard to international air travel.
Right, Vishnu, as you clearly pointed out, the kind of impact this will have on flight activity around the world, especially when it comes to Indian carriers. They do not fly the Pakistani airspace, and the Saudi Arabia corridor, which is the dense corridor, as Vishnu was pointing out, viewers, you can see on your screens right now, is where much of the flight activity is likely to take place. The Gulf of Aden, where the Houthi activity is underway, is another area which cannot be taken. All right, let's go back to Vishnu for more.
All right, what we'd like to focus on a little bit now is the weapon systems themselves. That's the B-2 aircraft which dropped a GBU-57. This is the ground penetrator. 12 of these, I believe, were used. They are designed to penetrate to a certain depth, and at a particular depth, it is designed to explode. The B-2s released 2 GBU-57 from an altitude of approximately 37 to 40,000 feet. These have been used in the Fordow region, where the primary nuclear reactor that they were going after today was struck. It penetrates to a certain depth. It has a 30,000-pound warhead. When that warhead explodes after the weapon has penetrated to a certain depth, then there is a large area which is completely incinerated. It is completely destroyed. In addition to this, there are two other sites, and let's move to the next image, which were also targeted, which was Isfahan and another reactor, Natanz as well. But those were targeted by the US using a different weapon system, the Tomahawk cruise missile fired by submarines in the Persian Gulf and possibly warships as well. But let's talk about this a little while more. In a time period of 180 seconds, the bomb impacts the surface, the mountain, it penetrates, it goes down to a particular depth. Approximately 200 feet is when it explodes. This has been designed to take out targets deep underground. And in the case of Fordow, which is the site which the Americans were really after, that is what has taken place. The penetration initiates through hundreds of feet of rock and perhaps concrete as well. Now, the Iranians have set up these facilities over decades. There are bunkers over there. There are hardened structures. There are, of course, the nuclear centrifuges. There are the nuclear reactors itself and a lot else which America and Israel believes is at a state where Iran could have developed a nuclear weapon within a very finite period of time. That's what this weapon was out to destroy. What the impact of this weapon system is for Iran is very clear. Iran's ability to get its nuclear weapons program in order, or even basic nuclear plants in order, has been set back by several years. I would suggest up to a decade, because with the air superiority that Israel and the United States have at this juncture, Iran's ability to do anything nuclear at this stage has essentially been destroyed.
Right. Vishnu, putting all that in perspective for us viewers, telling the kind of weaponry that has been used to bomb the 3 nuclear facilities of Iran. And as Vishnu was saying, in just 180 seconds, Iranian nuclear program has been set back by at least a decade, if not more. We're going to try and get images at some point of time to tell about the impact that has happened of these P-2 bombers. And as Vishnu was saying, that weaponry that is unprecedented and impact that is likely to be very significant. Viewers, if you're tuning in right now, what is flashing at the bottom of your screens is our next big interview that we're going to get very shortly, which is the Israeli ambassador who will be speaking to NDTV very shortly. But before that, I want to quickly play out this soundbite of Donald Trump when he announced the strike, when he said that Iran will pay even more if it doesn't stop from here on. Let's listen in to Donald Trump.
The U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight.
Congratulations, President Trump. Your bold decision to target Iran's nuclear facilities with the awesome and righteous might of the United States will change history. In Operation Rising Lion, Israel has done truly amazing things. But in tonight's action against Iran's nuclear facilities, America has been truly unsurpassed. It has done what no other country on earth could do. History will record that President Trump acted to deny the world's most dangerous regime the world's most dangerous weapons. His leadership today has created a pivot of history that can help lead the Middle East and beyond to a future of prosperity and peace. President Trump and I often say, peace through strength. First comes strength, then comes peace. And tonight, President Trump and the United States acted with a lot of strength. President Trump, I thank you. The people of Israel thank you. The forces of civilization thank you. God bless America. God bless Israel. And may God bless our unshakable alliance, our unbreakable faith.
All right, colleague Ankit Tyagi is reporting for us from Ground Zero in Tel Aviv. He also had moved to a bomb shelter soon after some sirens played out. Let's listen into this ground report that Ankit has filed.
You know, as we speak, there are sirens which have now gone on in Tel Aviv, and like the protocol, we had to also run to the nearest shelter that we could find. This is, you know, in one of the hotels, in fact, and everybody has been asked to run to this shelter. Let me very quickly tell you, like we were talking in the morning, and also show you the situation around. You know, it's a small shelter. I hope that you were able to capture that, which said that go to the nearest center for security. So there is an anticipation as far as the counter reaction from Iran is concerned. There are a few people still out there, and more people, in fact, coming in as we speak with you know what is going on here in Tel Aviv. Small space, but at this moment it's people have been instructed to reach, and even on the streets we saw very quickly how everything turned, and as soon as these sirens began, you know, there are people, those who have been instructed to reach these shelters, you know, everywhere that they could. There is no all clear given. People will have to stay in these shelters. No matter where you are, what you are doing, you have to run to one of the shelters as soon as you can find them.
He's in the shower, my husband. Go bring him.
Your husband is in shower?
In the shower. Go bring him.
Yeah?
I cannot take him out.
He's not scared?
Of course he's scared, but he's in the shower. Would you open the door for him now?
So this lady, I mean, in fact, despite what is happening, the humorous side continues. She says that her husband is still in the shower, waiting to come to this shelter at this moment. I'm from India, ma'am.
Oh, tell me who.
Yeah, I'm from India.
India, no? India.
Yeah.
Oh, we love India. We love.
All right. Let me show you. We have. Sorry, what? No pictures. All right, but.
They want to say we love India. I've been to India. We love India in Israel.
Love India. Thank you.
The
Thank you.
Israeli loves India.
You're hearing, you know, the conversation that we are having with our fellow occupants of this shelter, despite, and it also tells you the readiness as far as, you know, Israel and the people of Israel are concerned. They are prepared for these kind of situations, and that is why it's a part of life. There is somebody else who is knocking on the shelter door as we speak. And he's the person who was in the shower, as I was telling you earlier. So while the situation remains quite tense outside, at least there is the sense of humor alive in the people, and everybody at this moment crammed in this. We are about 8 to 10 people, along with a few pets here.
All right, so Ankit Tyagi reporting over there. Just in the last little while, we've now got information of Israel's response. Israel is now hitting targets in Iran. I'm just going to read out what has come from the Israeli armed forces. And I quote, the Air Force has now begun a wave of attacks against military targets in West Iran. In addition, this morning, the Air Force attacked missile launchers in Iran, ready to be launched towards the territory of the state of Israel. Soldiers in the Iranian military forces and closed the circle and destroyed launchers that had launched towards the territory of the state of Israel a short while back. That said, there have been impacts on Israel both in Tel Aviv and elsewhere. Now, Just for the benefit of our viewers, let's run through the sequence of events because it's been a day of very fast-moving developments. In the early hours of the morning, what time was it, local time, Iran, when they struck? 2:30 or 4:30?
I think it was closer to 3 in the morning.
It was closer to 3 in the morning.
Check that,
when the US struck 3 Iranian nuclear facilities. Iran responded by hitting Israel, and now Israel is hitting back at Iran. That's the sequence of events. Let's go back to our colleague Ankit Tyagi.
You've been to India?
Yes, I've been to India. I love India. I love the Indian people. I've been to the north and to the south. I traveled.
A lot of people back home.
A lot of Israeli people love India.
A lot of Indians back home would be wondering that air raid sirens are out. How are all of you so chirpy and smiley yet?
This is the power of the Israelis. Yes, we used to it because we use bombs falling in us. And yes, we're going outside, we're smiling, we're hugging each other. If you don't know someone, you say good morning, good night. We keep on smiling all the time. Like the Indian people, we're the same.
So this is sort of training for all of you people. So every time the air raid siren comes in, it's a way of life. You have to run into these bunkers, right?
Yes, every time.
Until when do we stay in these bunkers now?
Maybe half an hour, maybe an hour. It depends. If it's come from Gaza, so 10 minutes. But if it's from Iran, sometimes an hour, sometimes less.
Is there a sense of anxiety or fear as well with what has happened?
Of course. We're very scary. We don't go out all the time. We don't traveling. I didn't saw my family. They're in Haifa, in the north of Israel, for 2 weeks. We're very scary, of course.
Have you spoken to them? Are they safe?
Yes, they're okay.
That's.
We have a WhatsApp group. Every time there is the alarm, we're texting. Siren, we're texting.
All right, there's news coming in. Iran's first response to American strikes. Iranian Foreign Minister has said that US violated the UN Charter and has said that Iran reserves the right to strike back and says no contamination so far at the nuclear sites. So the 3 nuclear sites that were hit today by the B-2 bombers. As of now, Iran has said no contamination till now at those sites. Vishnu?
The B-2s and Tomahawk land attack cruise missiles launched from US warships, which struck Natanz and Isfahan. So let's see if we have that response. Do we have a soundbite of a response, or is that just information? All right, so that's the information that Gauri has read out. But let's just now look at the larger issue. And the larger issue is what will Iran do next? Because what Iran was trying to do over the last couple of days, which America and Israel have interpreted as just buying for time, was nonetheless an effort at diplomacy in Europe, where what they did is they tried to reach out to European interlocutors and said that there was a fairly promising plan in place as far as their nuclear program was concerned, but that Israel never waited. They went ahead and struck. Now, that is a fact, but Israel believed that had they not struck, then Iran would have been a very short period of time away from actually developing nuclear weapons.
Yes.
The question was whether America would actually be part of the attacks. Well, that question has been answered. So the larger issue is what happens now. Is diplomacy still on the cards? Well, I would suggest, Gauri, that it's not diplomacy in the way that Iran wants it. The fact of the matter is that it's no longer about whether America and Israel will stop attacking and then bring Iran onto the table and then they have a conversation. America has struck, Israel has struck, Iran itself has struck Israel, and therefore there has to be a larger conversation, an immediate conversation on what happens next. Will the fighting end?
Absolutely. And let's, in fact, Vishnu, while we wait for more details and we keep getting all the latest updates, let's walk our viewers who are tuning in right now in terms of what really happened right now, which is that at 3 o'clock Iranian time, US forces did strike 3 of the nuclear facilities in Iran. And the B-2 bombers were used, and something that Vishnu also told our viewers about, that the scale at which this attack took place, the 3 nuclear facilities, they were struck. And after that, Donald Trump also said that if Iran doesn't stop right now, they are willing to strike once again. That's a very important statement that was made by US President. Following that, in the last couple of hours, one has seen that Iranian the commentary that has come in from Iran continues to be very hawkish. They've hit, reports indicate that they have hit Israeli cities. Sirens have been sounded out. Some attacks have taken place. Iranian missiles have hit Israeli cities. And in response, Israel has launched fresh strikes against Iran. That is how things stand right now. And as we are telling our viewers, there is a deep American presence in that region, which, if, of course, impacted, will escalate this further from here on. Vishnu, let's quickly now get in a voice joining us from Melbourne, from Australia, Michael Feller, to talk more about, who's a co-founder and the chief strategist of geopolitical strategy, to understand from here on, how does it look? Mr. Feller, as things stand right now, the situation continues to be very fluid, very volatile. Fresh attacks, both from Iran and Israel, against each other.
Yes, that's right. Thanks for having me. Certainly fluid, early days, but certainly Iran is not going to back down now. I think they've made that clear. It's only really a question of when and how they strike back against the United States.
And that really does open up all sorts of options, because if it's ballistic missile attacks against American bases in West Asia and the Middle East, then A, Iran has a finite number of weapons that it can deploy, and B, that would be disproportionate. America considerably stronger than Iran is militarily. Therefore, what would that necessarily achieve?
It's not about achieving something in a military way. It's about the Iranian regime is cornered, and certainly if they don't fear regime change externally from Israel or the United States, they would fear regime change internally if they don't act. So they're stuck in a situation where it's lose-lose either way, but there will be some form of retaliation, as there was retaliation, of course, to Israel when they first launched the attacks on 13 June.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Feller, I'm just trying to understand, you were speaking about potential regime change. Do you believe that is actually the intention of America or of Israel? Because, the supreme Iranian leader, Khamenei, remains, a revered figure at one level. In Iran and in other parts of the Muslim world. That being the case, is that necessarily something that Israel or America would necessarily want to unsettle, or are they just essentially going after the nuclear facilities?
I think it's one of those things where war can easily extend into mission creep very, very quickly. And whilst the initial intention of the war was to remove nuclear facilities, I think regime change has always been a potential outcome. And Netanyahu has, and Trump have essentially said that this could be a potential outcome. So whilst it's not an objective per se, it's definitely going into the calculus here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so a regime change possibility is also there. In fact, stay with us, Mr. Feller, because I want to now cut across to our colleague Shiv Arur, who's speaking to the Israeli ambassador live on NDTV. Let's cut across to Shiv.
And joining us live now on NDTV, first and exclusive as part of our rolling coverage, is the Israeli ambassador to India, Ambassador Reuven Azar. Good morning, Ambassador. Thanks for being here on NDTV. My first question to you is, we've just heard and been reporting that Iranian missiles have hit different parts of Israel. There's a high alert across Israel at this point of time. The first retaliatory response from Iran after the US bombing earlier today. Your first words on that?
Well, Israel is indeed attacked. We had a barrage of more than 25 ballistic missiles. Israelis are in shelters. We are hearing reports about several hits, despite the fact that the most missiles have been foiled. There happens to be some injured people, so we are bracing, and we are basically ready for this attack. It was expected. Israelis were directed to stay in shelters. We knew that this attack may come, and the government will have to decide what to do about it, how to retaliate and when to retaliate.
Ambassador, how do you see this situation unfolding? I'd like to first ask you about the United States bombing of those nuclear sites in Iran. We've heard from your Prime Minister in Israel as well. Your reading, your understanding of these strikes by the United States?
I think that the leadership of the President Trump has proven to be amazing. The President of the United States took an historic and bold move. The decision to attack the nuclear facilities, I think, is the right decision. It is a decision that not only defends Israel, it defends the region, it defends the world, and it saves us from nuclear catastrophe that was planned by this malign regime. So it started with an Israeli strike against those installations and against the second existential threat that was the ballistic missile threat. As a result of that, the barrages of missiles from Iran have decreased substantially. But now this American action is basically sending a message to Iran that if they continue with their aggression, the price for the regime will be huge. And it remains to see whether the Iranians decide to retaliate against the American targets. I hope they don't. I think that it's very important to keep this conflict as narrow as possible. I think the Iranians now should come back to the table, should negotiate the dismantling of their military nuclear program and the dismantling of their missile ballistic program.
Ambassador Azhar, my third question to you is, the Iranian government leadership has put the United States on notice. They've said no U.S. city, no U.S. citizen is safe. How do you interpret that threat? There are a large number of U.S. bases and military units spread across West Asia. Do you think Iranian attack on some of those facilities is a possibility as well now?
Well, thankfully, Shiv, Israel has decimated and degraded substantially the Iranian capability to retaliate because their stockpile of ballistic missiles has dwindled because of the fact that we have taken all their air defenses and their capability to continue their aggression against the region has diminished. If you take into account that there is a huge American amassing of force in the region, I think it would be absolutely irresponsible, not only for the region, but also for Iran's and the Iranian people's interest, if the Iranians continue this aggression.
I know you can't go into specifics, Ambassador Azhar, but I will still like to ask on the U.S. bombing, unprecedented bombing of 3 nuclear sites in Iran. It comes after, a wave of punitive attacks by Israel inside Iran. But during these particular strikes this morning by the United States, what role, if any, did Israel play and the Israel military, sir?
As you've seen, Shiv, Israel in this Operation Rising Lion, has taken massive, action against all the nuclear installations of Iran. The Iranian military nuclear program was spread around more than 70 locations, and we systematically pounded these locations in the course of the last 10 days. There were some locations, like the facility in Fordow, that is deeply underground, which the United States have capabilities to strike it more effectively. That's what they decided to do. So you are seeing a massive Israeli operation with a complementary action by the United States to neutralize this existential threat for Israel and this terrible threat for the rest of the world. It has been, I think, a very effective action that was taken after decades of trying to convince the Iranians to avoid from this course of action. But unfortunately, they didn't take us seriously. I hope that the day comes in which they take us seriously and they understand that in their interest of the country and for the future of their government, they have to change policy and stop their campaign of aggression towards Israel, their attempt to create a hegemony in the region, and to pursue more peaceful policies.
Just 2 more questions, Ambassador, before we let you go. One, do you see the possibility of more strikes on Iran by either Israel or the United States? There's also the question of the Iranian leadership, the Khamenei and others, that many experts believe to be unfinished business as far as Rising Lion is concerned.
Well, Shiv, as much as we didn't agree to allow Iran to develop this double plan to exterminate us, we continue to be determined to defend ourselves. And if the regime doesn't understand the message and thinks that they can continue pursuing this, so probably our cabinet will have to make decisions to do more than just targeting the direct threats against us, and we'll have to take more action to hit the military infrastructure of Iran as a whole. As you know, Iran has many military targets that weren't hit yet. Their army, their navy, many other capabilities, installations. So there is a lot for Israel to continue hitting if Iran continues to attack us.
My final question, Ambassador, is India is, of course, watching everything playing out very closely, specifically on the evacuations of Indians from land borders in Israel. Can you give us an update on that? I know specifics are evolving right now, but whatever you can share with us, because there is concern about their safety as well.
Well, we are, of course, are taking care of all the residents in our region, including the Indian nationals. We are in coordination with MEA. There have been initial efforts to evacuate those Indians that want to leave through the Jordanian border. And we will continue this coordination in order to make sure that no Indian citizens become under threat.
Ambassador Reuven Azar, thanks very much for speaking to NDTV. Thank you.
Thank you, Shiv.
And Gauri and Vishnu, that was the Ambassador of Israel speaking first and exclusive to us here on NDTV. I think it remains pretty clear that there could be more exchanges. Iranian missiles already in the air. Some have hit different parts of Israel. It looks like another exchange is probably something we can expect.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, that was the big exclusive that we have for you viewers. Shivarur in conversation with the Israeli ambassador. And as he mentioned, Vishnu, this is very important that there can be more exchanges going forward. And just before this interview, we were talking about how another round of exchange is already,
place.
Exactly, it's already taken place.
Yeah, in fact, let's just go through that because that is an absolutely important point. Israel has struck Iran's military installations. Iran's aggression now will be irresponsible is what some of the messages are that we've been getting. In fact, we got that from the Israeli ambassador as well. But by way of information, what I can say is that Israel has been striking targets in western parts of Iran in the last little while. They began targeted strikes on military targets in West Iran. I'd just like to let our viewers know that in the next 10 to 15 minutes, we will be providing extremely high-resolution satellite imagery of the Fordow facility. These were pre-strike images, not the post-strike images. That's going to take some time. But just to give you a context of what the Americans struck, we'll be bringing you those satellite images very, very soon indeed. Gauri?
Mm-hmm. Indeed. And that, I think, is going to explain, viewers, in detail the kind of impact that these strikes have really happened. I want to get in Mohammad Khatibi, who's an Iran analyst, joining us from Tehran. Mr. Khatibi, thank you so much for speaking to NDTV. The latest update that's come in as we speak is that the IDF has said that it's begun strikes, a series of strikes towards military targets in western Iran. You are there in Tehran. Talk to us about what is the situation right now on ground, and then we talk about some of these specific strikes that we are mentioning.
First of all, thank you for having me. And now there has been an escalation, and this is the U.S. attack on Iranian soil. And this will not be met with ease because this is a first, and Iran now has the right to defend itself, not just against Israel, but against the U.S. Now, Iranian leadership is thinking that U.S. bases in the region are now a legitimate target, and Iran has already given a letter to the UN Security Council to discuss this current situation. And there is another point here. Now, Iran has no reason to be committed to NPT, and Iran can now pursue nuclear weapons and
Israel and the US can't do anything about it because there will be in unknown locations. Other than that, US and Israel can't destroy the knowledge that gained by Iranians during these years. By killing scientists and killing military commanders, the knowledge can't be destroyed. And the structures, we don't know how Fordow site has been hit and if the operation was successful yet. Trump claims that it was a very successful operation, but we don't know yet because there is no imagery, and if only the doors were closed and the structure below is safe, or what happened, the whole structure is gone, we don't know that. And I don't think that anyone, especially the US, can decide that the whole structure was gone. Other than that,
I would suggest, Mr. Khatibi, that at this juncture, I think it's fairly safe to assume that the the sites have been taken out, and that Iran's nuclear program, and in terms of the plants themselves, it suffered a huge setback perhaps for several years. But I think the point that you are mentioning is important, that Iran needs to move away from the NPT, which you say you were committed to, and that Iran is now free to develop nuclear weapons one way or the other. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yes, because now there is no reason for Iran to be in the nuclear commitments, because now there are no structures. There are some structures left, but these put Iran maybe 1 or 2 years back. But Iran, if Israel and the US want to destroy the whole situation, whole structures, they should re-attack Iran in 1 year, re-attack Iran in 6 months. And I don't think that neither Israelis nor the US want this, because now they are pressuring Iran to surrender, but it is not the case. Okay. Iran has prepared itself for a long war, and the number of missiles it is directed against Israel is very low compared to what it has in its arsenal. Okay. And Iran is preparing for a long war because it knows that those interceptors can be a logistical problem for Israel and the US. Those interceptors would, according to US estimates, I'm not an analyst of military, but they are saying that these interceptors will be a problem in 2 weeks, and Iran doesn't use all of its capabilities at once, and it's just firing 100, 200 missiles at a time, and this will continue until.
But Mr. Khatibi, my information and information that we've been tracking, obviously internationally, is slightly different. That after the last round of missile exchanges with a few months back with Israel, you would be down to 2,000 to 2,500 ballistic missiles, of which several hundred have already been expended. Israel would perhaps have taken that into account. The question is, if you do choose to attack America, in addition, American targets in West Asia, in addition to Israel itself, Iran faces the same situation which you feel that Israel faces, that you could run out of ordnance yourself. Therefore, how is it feasible for Iran to militarily continue?
There is a logistical problem. There is a logistical problem here for the US. We are located in the Middle East, but US doesn't. And US has bases that are in target and reach of Iran. Other than that, Iran is capable to close the Strait of Hormuz, which is not only a harm to the US, it is harm to the Europe and other countries in the world, and the oil prices may rise sharply. And this is a problem for the US, not Iran.
No, it's a global problem, sir. It's not just a problem for US. I understand what you're saying. The Strait of Hormuz threat is not being made for the first time.
For the whole world.
Of course, for the whole world, yes, for the whole world, and those energy prices will shoot through the roof. It hasn't happened. Those threats have been made several times in the past, and that could actually be unprecedented. I'm going to leave it there, Mr. Khatibi. I want to now go across to my colleague Aarti Krishnan, who's joining us as well, to talk about what could really happen. You know, we are talking about what could be Iran's next step, and as you know, Vishnu, even the guest was mentioning that it's not going to really derail the Iranian program. There could be a thought within Tehran as well that, you know, let's double down on it. That's one of the scenarios that the guest was talking about. What could those be? Let's get in Aarti to decode that for our viewers.
Absolutely. So there are a lot of scenarios that could perhaps play out, right, in terms of US's reaction, Iran's reaction, and apart from that, the fallout on the economy as well. The first scenario is that Iran launches missile strikes on US bases in the region. Now, this is something that experts are expecting as well, saying that Iran perhaps would not back down, although Iran has limited options. Now, in terms of the scenario 2, Israel goes on high alert and preemptively hits IRGC targets. So this, of course, is Israel's reaction. Israel also would not back down. Now that it knows that the US supports it and US has entered the conflict, Israel has more confidence to react, and it could preemptively attack areas in Iran. Third scenario, Iran activates Hezbollah and proxies to strike from Lebanon on Iraq and Syria. Now this, of course, Iran's proxies in the Middle East, including Hezbollah and Hamas, could perhaps strike Israeli targets and in other areas, especially from Lebanon, Iraq and Syria. Now, global oil prices, like I said, the economic fallout, global oil prices spike amid fears of Strait of Hormuz blockade. Now, this is something that we saw as well. Iran had come out with a statement. The aide of Khamenei had said that perhaps the Hormuz Strait would be blocked, which again would affect trade. And that is another fallout that a lot of people were fearing would happen. The fifth scenario, China-Russia call for restraint, but quietly back Iran diplomatically. Now, this, of course, is another big fallout that could happen in terms of diplomacy, where China and Russia back Iran, but quietly, and that still gives Iran more power to fight against Israel and the US.
All right, Aarti, putting us through that very important scenario building in terms of where does this war, this conflict go from here, and some of those scenarios could actually mean a serious escalation from here on. Already, you're getting that sense from Iranian commentary, which has been very hawkish, given the presence that America has in that region. Any attack whatsoever on those assets would mean a major and serious escalation. I want to quickly now play out some of the important sound bites of analysts and experts that NDTV has been getting for you viewers as we continue our rolling coverage of the biggest escalation that one has seen in Middle East in decades. Let's play out some of those sound bites. We can come back and continue this.
These were the three sites, especially Fordow, but there are also Natanz and Isfahan, that Israel had already hit all three, but Israel doesn't have the capability to destroy them and basically take them off as a part of the conversation. We know that we just saw reports that 6 bunker busters, probably the massive ordnance penetrators you just talked about that can penetrate over 200 feet, and most likely more than one, was done to ensure that these sites were destroyed, these nuclear enrichment sites were destroyed, and that President Trump is honest when he says now is the time for negotiations.
Iran is likely to do as a response, as a retaliation. And my chief concern is actually a cyber attack on the United States, likely starting with Israel, but also with the United States. For a long time, we have heard warnings about sleeper cells, Iranian agents, Hezbollah, other groups that may be here based in the United States. But right now, I have been reaching out to relatives and to friends and other connections and urging them to have cash on hand, because there may be attempts to shut down the banking system or to reach out to other infrastructure here in the United States.
I mean, we obviously saw this coming.
Israel had completely dominated Iran when it comes to their capacity to defend themselves, but they could not get to the depth in these facilities to really do damage to the nuclear program. That required a specific type of munition, a massive ordnance penetrator, specifically the GBU-57. And only the United States had that and the capacity to deliver it, which was done by the B-2 Spirit aircraft. But I'm sure the U.S. intelligence community is working hard to determine just how much damage they did. But I think the estimation would be they would set these programs back many years, 3 to 5 years. And that's what they're looking at now. Of course, now we're looking at what Iran's going to do in response.
This is definitely a step in the wrong direction, to put it lightly, for obvious reasons. Because we've seen the Islamic Republic make countless statements that if the United States enters this conflict, which is now a war, that they will escalate their attacks on U.S. bases throughout Europe and also throughout the Middle East, particularly sites that are located in the Middle East. If Iran does that, then we start seeing other countries enter this conflict, which then is going to escalate this into a regional war and, God forbid, a world war, because then we also have China and Russia that have put out statements asking for de-escalation, asking for diplomacy.
All right, viewers, we've been telling you about the B-2 bombers. Let's now tell you about the Tomahawk cruise missiles that were fired at two of those nuclear sites, Natanz and Isfahan. Aarti taking us through the details of what these cruise missiles are all about and the kind of impact that they are capable of, which they did strike at these nuclear sites. Over to you, Aarti.
That's right. Let's take you through the second-by-second breakdown of how the Tomahawks attacked. So, T plus 0 seconds, Tomahawk cruise missile launched from LA or Virginia. This is the first point. And of course, we're going to take you through the second-by-second breakdown of how the strike took place. Submarines were launched in northern Arabian Sea. And this, of course, took place. And as far as the timing is concerned, we're taking you through the first couple of seconds. In T plus 5 seconds, the missiles clear launch tubes and ignite booster engines. And then, of course, in T plus 15 seconds, missile breaks the water surface. And from there on, again, it begins the low altitude cruising. And from there on, in T plus 60 seconds, missile level is out at the terrain-hugging altitude. That is, of course, right above ground. And T plus 300 seconds, guidance systems activate mid-flight corrections. This is what took place in T plus 900 seconds. The missiles enter Iranian airspace. Then, of course, missiles guided to fly below the radar coverage. This, of course, took place in T plus 900 seconds. And T plus 1200 seconds, missiles split course to target nuclear sites. This was, of course, how the attack took place. The final target acquisition was through onboard sensors in T plus 1500 seconds. In 1530 seconds, the missiles strike target with precision. This was the final few moments of the attack, with the secondary explosions detected at the nuclear infrastructure in T plus 1600 seconds. T plus 1800 seconds, the satellites pick up fires and structural collapse and signal disruptions in the nuclear sites in Iran. Remember, 3 sites were attacked in Iran. T plus 1800 seconds, the satellites had picked up fires, the structural demolitions that took place, collateral damage that took place in these nuclear infrastructures.
All right, Aarti, putting that into perspective, into the kind of impact that Tomahawk cruise missiles had at the nuclear sites which were bombed by US. Viewers, if you're tuning in right now, this is the biggest global news, and NDTV has been at the top of it, getting you every aspect, every detail first. And with all perspective here, we're going to slip into a very short break. Our rolling coverage of the latest escalation in Middle East continues. America is now walked into this war between Iran and Israel. It has bombed 3 nuclear sites. We're going to slip into a break, come back on the other side, talk more about the latest developments that are unfolding. And we're also going to try and connect with our reporter, my colleague Ankit Tyagi, who's getting us details from Ground Zero. Stay with NDTV for all those and more.
In the last 1 month, if you see, the share prices of Genzol Engineering has fallen more than 58%.
Why are the rating firms calling the debt payments as default?
We have two credible credit rating agencies on March 4th coming and downgrading the stock to D.
Statements are consistently being proven wrong, and transactions are being taken place which are different from what they were originally pictured to be.
The company claimed it would roll out 6,400 electric vehicles. But what it has rolled out is a shocking scam. Funds meant for the project were funneled allegedly back to the promoters, the Jaggi brothers. What did the money buy? Not EVs, of course, but a lavish flat in Gurgaon's luxurious DLF Carmelias.
News is not just headlines, it is what impacts you. And news should never be mistaken for noise. What matters is the reality. Accurate, in-depth, and with the right perspective. For over 20 years, I have been a journalist, and never has clarity mattered more than now. At Newsnight, we go beyond the surface. We dissect the details, challenge the narratives, and bring you the unparalleled clarity you deserve in a world clouded by misinformation. We are bold, we are direct. Newsnight, for the news in your interest. Only on NDTV 24/7.
Why was there a hurry? Was it the government that was in a hurry?
I don't want to blame anyone.
Joining us today here in the NDTV newsroom.
Government cannot walk away from this responsibility.
Cricket is religion of sort in this country.
Would you like to comment on what happened?
What is the condition of the injured at this point? How many people died?
What exactly happened? You have lost your daughter.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shivaru. Only on NDTV 24/7.
How often have you turned away from debates that descend into endless fights? We bring you a show where every question is answered, where every debate finds.
Welcome viewers, you're watching NDTV's rolling coverage of the West Asia crisis, which has escalated after US President Donald Trump bombed 3 nuclear sites in Iran. What will be the way forward? What will be the future in terms of this conflict? We get you all the details and updates, but first up, the headlines at noon this Sunday. United States makes a direct entry into the war with Iran, bombs 3 top Iranian nuclear sites. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu calls it a pivot in history for the Middle East. Iran fires missiles towards Israel. Iran strikes residential areas in Israel as air sirens have been sounded across Israel. Iran says there are no signs of any contamination at the sites that have been struck by the US military. Radiation detectors have recorded no radioactive release after the strikes. Iranian Foreign Minister says United States has violated the UN Charter with these strikes. Big NDTV exclusive. Israeli envoy speaks to NDTV, says more strikes likely soon and assures that safe evacuation for Indians will take place in Israel. Viewers, if you're tuning in right now, there has been a big escalation in the Middle East conflict. United States has directly entered into the Iran-Israel war. Donald Trump has gone where no US president has gone till now. Stealth bombers have been dropped on Iranian nuclear sites. 3 Iranian nuclear sites were bombed by US and the US president went on to say that these strikes were excellent, and if Iran chooses to retaliate, then more will happen. When he mentioned retaliation, he was of course talking about the American assets, deep American assets that remain present in West Asia. But since those attacks by America on Iranian nuclear sites, there has been a fresh round of strikes by Iran on Israeli cities. And there has been a retaliation that has come in from Israel as well. I want to first cut across and get in my colleague Mohammad Ghazali, who's joining us live for more on this. And then we'll try and connect with Ankit as well, who is in Tel Aviv, to get us what's really happening on ground zero. As I said, fresh round of escalation and strikes are continuing between Iran and Israel. The situation remains volatile. The area, the region remains completely fluid. Ghazali, you've been working the phones. Talk to us about what is it that your sources are telling you in terms of the Iranian establishment. Ideally, one would have imagined that there could be some cessation of hostilities, but that doesn't look the case right now. What are your sources telling you?
See, first thing that the US launched its attack overnight, and Iran was informed about it, that there were 2 war goals. One, to denuclearize Iran, to dismantle the entire nuclear infrastructure in Iran, as well as change the regime. But US has contained itself with just one war goal, that it had launched the attack, conveyed to Iran in prior that we are going to dismantle the nuclear enrichment facilities, but we are not going to go for any regime change operations. The regime change operations obviously hints towards the assassination of top Iranian leader, Mr. Ayatollah Khamenei. This is somewhere which shows that US has still opened the back channel talks with Iran. Iran continues to maintain its stand that it can't compromise on national sovereignty, it can't be suppressed into negotiations, and that is why these attacks have been launched against Israel. There have been no attacks yet from Iran towards any of the US bases in Middle East, largely because of the fact that most of these bases are based in those countries which are also close allies of Iran. Let's say the American air base in Qatar. Qatar has been involved in the negotiations when it comes to Gaza hostages. Iran is also one of the stakeholders there. Now the ground situation is that Iran is launching attacks towards Israel, and we have seen around 22 to 27 missiles have been launched towards Israeli cities of Tel Aviv and Jerusalem and Haifa, and we are getting those visuals of damage. The situation is still emerging. The authorities there are still assessing the damage being inflicted on certain areas in Israel right now, but the situation is very fluid. Iran has been appealing the United Nations Security Council to
there's more breaking news coming in. I want to address that and get in Zvika Klein, who's joining us live from Tel Aviv, to get a sense of how things are right now on ground. He's the editor-in-chief of Jerusalem Post. There are updates coming in, Mr. Klein, which says that Iran has targeted the Israeli airport, Ben Gurion, and has targeted command centers in Israel as well. Tell us what's the situation right now on ground, the latest update that you can share with us.
Hello, good morning from Jerusalem. As much as I know, there hasn't been any attack on the airport. It remains to be seen, I think. But the attacks really were mainly in Tel Aviv and in Haifa, and there's dozens of Israelis injured, including children and elderly. But most of the injuries are actually light wounds. Thank God, because people are in their shelters. And obviously, everybody is uptight and uptick as a result of the American attack. And most Israelis were hoping for this type of attack to join Israel and to show partnership, and it did. And therefore the situation will probably also become a bit more dramatic.
It's important what you are saying. You are saying that there has been no attack or attempted attack on Ben Gurion Airport. The reason I'm asking you about this is because Iranian television, their state TV, says that several sites, including Ben Gurion, have been targeted. Targets include support bases, command and control centers, etc., etc. Now, that's a claim. What you are telling us as an independent journalist is that Ben Gurion Airport, which is obviously so important, has not been struck. I mean, that's your information. Is that right?
100%. And I'm just like you. I'm just looking at the TV next to me to see if I missed something possibly. Right. They may, by the way, they've been trying to target it. The question is, did they hit? I haven't had any indications up until now that site was hit.
Mm-hmm. All right. In terms of what Israel may be planning next at this stage, because we've seen just by the sequence of events, America struck Iran. We've seen Iran striking Israel. Israel struck back. Could you tell us more about the Israeli offensive in the last, I guess, half an hour or so?
Yeah, I mean, the Israeli offensive is continuing to attack sites that are not civilian, as opposed to Iran. Sites that are military bases, missiles, missile factories, etc. And they're continuing to do so for 10 days now. And it's actually surprising, dominating the airspace in Iran, being able to go in and out as they wish.
Mm-hmm. There are some videos and visuals we are putting out right now for our viewers to see. As per the Iranian state television, that is Press TV, they say that this is the kind of impact that the Iranian missiles have had on several Israeli cities, that we are putting that out. This is as per the Iranian state broadcaster. I want to understand from you, sir, that what is the kind of damage right now that has taken place in Israel, because IRGC has said that long-range missiles are now being used against Israel. Does this indicate a willingness to escalate this further? Where do you see this over the next 24 to 48 hours?
So first of all, I mean, the footage you're showing at the moment is definitely actual footage, and that is the type of ruins we are seeing in different cities across Israel. Luckily, because Israel is able to shoot down many of the missiles or the drones coming, so there are not as many of them landing. But definitely, yeah, when the missile lands, that's the effect that it has on a building. And as opposed to missiles being sent by the Houthis from Yemen or from Hezbollah in Lebanon, these missiles are ballistic, as you said, long range, and the effect that they have is a lot more dramatic. As for the Israeli offensive, I think obviously Israel will retaliate. And I think a lot of Israelis' objectives have been already achieved. Therefore, if the United States, Iran, etc., will want to move on to some sort of diplomatic situation, Israel may actually, abide to it. Yeah.
Mr. Klein, what is the regional impact of the American involvement in the strikes on Iran?
I think it remains to be seen. Well, I think throughout the day or the next few days, it's a very good question. There could be so many implications on this attack, and the Middle East is so fragile and so tense. It could have effects on Jordan, on Saudi Arabia, on the Gulf countries. So it really remains to be seen, because some of these countries, Muslim countries, Arab countries, speak out against Israel publicly, but behind the scenes are actually happy that Israel is attacking Iran. So the question will really be how this will affect those countries, and definitely the moderate Muslim countries that have very important and strategic ties with the United States. Now that the United States is joined in this attack, I think their criticism will be a bit more mellow.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Klein, we've seen direct Israeli attacks on Iran. We've seen direct American attacks on Iran as well. But one of your biggest concerns has obviously been proxies of the Iranian state, which is why we've seen the attacks on Gaza, which is why we've seen the attacks against Hamas to the north, which is why we've seen, your attacks against targets in Yemen as well, the Houthis. Is it your real concern that as we move beyond, the military strikes, that threat of terrorism remains a far more, perhaps even deadly or dangerous or pervasive, persistent threat against the state of Israel?
I mean, I think, that threat still is there, and that's why Israel is still operating in the relevant countries, and Israel is not enjoying any of this, and nothing that has been done the IDF wants to do actively, but we see this as a war of survival. We had our War of Independence in 1948, and really now it's kind of the revival of our nation after October 7th, 2023, being attacked from 7 different fronts. Such a little country, it's not easy. And therefore, Israel is continuing to do these operations in all these countries. And if Iran would, agree, or if the IRGC would agree to convince the proxies or stop funding the proxies, etc., obviously that would have a positive effect.
Yes.
We don't see that happening. They keep on threatening.
Mr. Klein, you mentioned that some of the objectives of Israel when it started these strikes have been met. But there is a lot of hawkish commentary that's also coming in from Iran. There are some experts who feel that this could expedite the program once again, no matter how many nuclear scientists that may have been eliminated, no matter the setback that may have taken place through these entire nuclear program. But how do you view that, given the fact that several Iranian commentators feel that it could expedite rather than slowing the program further?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's definitely a scenario, and I hope it's not a realistic one, but it could definitely be a realistic scenario. But, the other direction would be, some sort of instability within Iran, and the Israeli government isn't actively trying to change the regime in Iran, but definitely since this regime has taken place, its hostility towards Israel has been huge and deadly, and thousands of Jews and Israelis around the world, including in Israel, were killed because of these hostilities and because of this extreme element that they represent. So if this continues, if the regime were to be threatened, that could possibly be a positive outcome, but obviously it could also be a negative one.
And Mr. Klein, stay with us, because I want to now go across to Vishnu to talk about the kind of impact that this could have in terms of the strikes on ground. But before that, Mr. Klein, one more question I want to ask about is the regime change. It was being mentioned repeatedly that regime change could be one of the goals of Israel. Do you still see that right now, given the fact that it could have widespread ramifications for the entire region, and the supreme leader enjoys huge popularity in large parts of Iran?
So nobody will say it publicly, and I think Israel also is very careful, hopefully doing so and speaking about this. It's definitely something I think that most Israelis would like to see. But also most Israelis don't understand, including myself, don't understand enough of the nuance and the sociology, etc., within Iran, within the Iranian population. So, I think definitely there is some sort of will for that to happen. And again, this is a leader that threatens the existence of Israel. It's not even saying, "Oh, we're going to attack Israel." Every morning, the supreme leader Khamenei will tweet or speak out and say that the state of Israel should be wiped out off the map. We've seen plans for him to do that. So therefore, obviously, deep down inside, Israel wants to see him go.
All right. That was Mr. Zveka Klein of the Jerusalem Post, editor-in-chief, talking about whether or not the main or key objectives of Israel have been addressed or not. As we speak, viewers, what's flashing at the bottom of your screens right now is a world leader's response to the present escalation in the Middle East. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has responded to this. He's put out a post saying that Iran's nuclear program is a grave threat to international security. Iran can never be allowed to develop a nuclear weapon, and the US has taken action to alleviate that threat. Remember, just days ago, the G7 statement that came in also talked about how the Iranian nuclear program is a huge threat, and they completely support Israel. This was ahead of the G7 summit, and now after the attack that has taken place, the US bombing the 3 nuclear sites of Iran. This is the first statement that's come in from the UK Prime Minister, calling for diplomacy, backing American strikes against Iran, and saying that US has taken action to remove the Iranian nuclear threat, and says that Iran must come to the negotiating table. Talks have been going on. Remember, there was one that happened a few days back on Friday itself, 48 hours back in Switzerland, but those have not made any progress whatsoever. The Switzerland talks also ended without any progress. The international community continues to ask Iran to come back to the negotiating table. All right, let's now turn attention to what we were talking about. What is the kind of impact, the damage that we are talking about? Maxar images tell us the best, and Vishnu is the best person to decode that for us.
All right, but I'd just like to clarify that these are pre-impact images. The post-impact images might take several hours to process. However, what I'd like to do is explain to you exactly the site in very high resolution imagery that the US struck today. There were 3. There was Isfahan, Natanz, and Fordow. The Fordow site is the critical one because, as I will show you now, it's been carved into a mountain site. So let's just zoom in to this particular image. What you see over here is this undulating structure is in fact the entire plant itself, the nuclear reactor. A lot of it is underneath this. And the image that you see here from the 19th of June actually shows a number of vehicles lined up in the near one of the entry points. There are multiple entry points into this facility, which is largely underground, as we've mentioned. So that's one image. Let's go to another image. It'll give you a clearer idea of the lay of the land. And this is the exact terrain that we are talking about over here. Let's focus on this area. You can see this entire hillside. And this is where the Americans likely struck. This is absolutely critical because this white building, and I'll come to a close-up of that in just the next few moments, is where this white building is one of the key entry points into the nuclear reactor, which has been carved into this particular site. Zoom in even more, if we can, into that particular area, right? This gives our viewers an idea of the extent of what the terrain is. As you can see, not just the white building, pan the camera if we can, from left to right over there. This gives you an idea, as I mentioned, of the terrain. It's been carved, Fordow, into this, which is why the US had to penetrate this with bunker buster weaponry, very, very high powered ordnance as well. Additional facilities perhaps up there, but it's this site which is critical, which is why we're going to go to the next image, which shows you exactly what I'm going to talk about. So remember that white building that you saw in the previous picture? This is the white building. There is an artery of roads which lead into this. This leads into the underground structures, which you cannot see. This is a uranium enrichment plant. The Americans would perhaps be worried about this being the area where nuclear weapons were potentially being developed. There is an artery of roads that you can see leading up to that one entry point over here. This is another building that you see a little further up over here. But again, you don't see any overt structures. You don't see any chimneys. You don't see any buildings because Fordow has been carved into the ground. And this is one of the main areas where people enter. There are further entry and exit points over here. Zoom in where my finger is. It's actually two further entry points. An entry point into the mountain over here and another entry point over here. I'm just wondering if we can go to the previous image because these pictures tell so much. If we go to the previous image, then it'll give you a clearer idea of the terrain over here. This is a close-up of that area which America struck. If possible, we can go to the previous image. All right, we'll have that image, but before we go to that, here are two further points over here. Let's zoom in over here. This is a tunnel entry that you can see, a tunnel entry into the mountainside. There are multiple points which go into the mountain under which the hillside, the feature, the rugged feature inside which this nuclear plant in Fordow has been located. What the Americans were doing is looking to penetrate structures like this using the GBU-57 weapon, which is a 30,000-pound bomb. It penetrates through the surface of the mountain over there and incinerates or takes out whatever there is underneath. So the previous image, right? Okay, let's go to the next image, not just this image, but this, right. This is the key picture. And I think let's focus on this. Sony, would you like to focus on this as well? I'd get both the cameras over here to focus on this terrain. Now, what was I talking about? I was talking about this white building, right, which you saw a few moments back. I was talking about entry points. These are the entry points that I spoke about, and these were the next set of entry points as well. Zoom out a little bit to where my hand is, right? So you can see 2 entry points over here. You can see 2 further entry points over here and that white building. And again, if we zoom out just a little bit more, you can see that in terms of Fordow, this entire area gives you an idea of how hilly the terrain actually is. I mean, that is what America was trying to get into to actually strike this. So that's what gives you an idea, Gauri, of what America struck. One of the 3 plants, nuclear facilities, I should say, that they struck.
Absolutely, and that tells you the heavily fortified nuclear facility that was bombed by America, and one of the 3 sites that were bombed by US. And as Vishnu was telling viewers right now, that those images tell you the scale at which the bomb would have hit the facility, how heavily fortified that entire facility is, how deep into the ground it is, and the hilly area and the region in which it is actually located. Now I'm going to try and connect with our colleague Ankit Tyagi, who's reporting for live from Tel Aviv. He's there where some reports are coming in that Iran has fired 2 sets of strikes there. Air raids and air sirens have been going up in several cities in Israel, and that includes Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and several others. And I'm told Ankit joins us live for more on that. Ankit, first of all, take us through what's really happening right now on ground. Reports are suggesting fresh strikes by Iran. Tell us more.
Okay, what I can tell you at this moment is that one of the site of attack is where I'm headed to. If you give me a moment, we will get out of the car. Earlier, there were 27 of these missiles which were lobbed towards Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and Haifa. Can I just request you? I'll just be joining you in just a moment. Just give me 2 minutes so that we can just try and get out of the car and the place where actually the strike has taken place. Just give us a moment when we are back.
Absolutely, we're going to give you that minute when you try and connect with us from the exact strike. Yeah.
Story on the screen actually does tell a real story. The fact that
sirens.
You've got sirens, and let's just listen to that audio from Ankit's camera if we can.
Yes.
This is now the second wave attacks launched by Iran against Israel. Right, there was an all clear earlier on, but there has been damage on the ground that you can see in the Tel Aviv area, apparently other parts of Israel as well. This is one of the most intense Iranian attacks that we've seen. Now, several of the Iranian missiles have been taken out by Israeli interceptors, but there has been significant damage as well, which has been reported. This is, as I understand it, fresh footage which is coming in. In the Tel Aviv area, a building has been destroyed. There are homes nearby which have been destroyed as well as the result of the impact of one of the Iranian ballistic missiles coming in. There has been an active battle of interceptors versus incoming ballistic missiles. And it's now the second time that we are seeing, it's for the second time that we are seeing air raid or hearing air raid sirens and seeing people potentially being told to get into bunkers at this stage. We'll get NDTV's Ankit Tyagi up in just a little while from now.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to Ankit. Ankit, we are with you right now. You're live on air. Go ahead.
Yes.
Vishnu, so as I was telling you, we're trying to make our way to one of the areas which has been hit in Iran. This is in fact the area where one of the buildings was impacted. You will see a lot of emergency services vehicles while I am moving at this moment, going closer to the building where the attack took place. Now, what we have been told is that 11 people so far have been injured in these attacks, and we are also been told that since the morning when the airstrikes took place in Iran by the United States of America, it has been in fact declared that people in Tel Aviv, no government offices, school, colleges of any nature are functioning at this moment. Okay, I think you can now see a lot of these emergency services vehicles. So we are trying to in fact make our way nearer to the place where this incident did take place. And this is in central Tel Aviv, and we are moving in fact there some fire services vehicle as well that you would see on your screens at this moment. Remember, all that happened did happen just about half an hour, about an hour and a half ago. So still there are these emergency crews and services which are on the job as we speak. But this is the situation in Tel Aviv where we are reporting from at this moment. You will see other people, those who have been asked to, in fact, I can still see a lot of movement here, which is followed by massive amount of the security services which are operating in this place. There is some damage which has been sustained by this. That is why you would see some earth-moving vehicles also on your screens. What I'll do, Ricky is with me, so I'll just try and ask her what area exactly are we in. Ricky, what is this area that we are in at this moment?
Ramat Aviv. It's in northern Tel Aviv, the area of the university.
So this is the area near the university where this impact has in fact taken place. And what I will do, I will just show you behind me that the area where this. Okay, so we'll just. I can show you around here. In fact, at the time of impact when this would have happened, you can see some damage which has been sustained to these places. There is glass shattered all around. It's a civilian area near the university where the impact took place. There is glass shattered all around. This lady is also. Were you here when the attack took place? Are you injured?
A little bit, yes.
What happened? Got cut by the glass?
Yeah, I cut by the glass. I was cut by the glass.
Flying shards, right? I mean, when it broke. So, this lady was here when this attack, in fact, took place. And what I will show you, those shards of glass that you can see all around at this moment. So this is one of the areas where the impact has taken place. There are shops around in this area, and we are near the university. And on the other side, you would also see, the work going on as far as the security agencies and heavy earth-moving vehicles also there. That's the building where I can also see broken glass all across where we are reporting from, which is now being completely shut off. Okay, what I will do, I will just ask Ricky to just show you on the floors, the higher floors of that building, behind me that you would see some damage as far as the building is concerned, some broken windows in that building as we speak. So this is the civilian area where this impact of the attack happened just a short while back. Massive security also. I can see some people in fact moving with their baggage possibly to some safer places, but at this moment this is the situation here in northern Tel Aviv, and where we are reporting from that the civilian areas have been damaged. Now as soon as the attack happened, and this is how quickly the emergency services have reacted to this, I can see a bank. This is a bank building, and where you see the flag of Israel, the entire glass, it has been shattered there. It's completely broken because of the impact, and right now the cleaning crew is here. They are trying to clean this entire area up. We are bringing to you this news report right from northern Tel Aviv, and this is the capital city where the impact has in fact taken place. Behind me you can also see the entire cleanup which is going on as we speak. This is a bank which has been impacted in this, and all around as well. There are security agencies, people, those who are in fact trying to assess the whole situation. I've seen a lot of people from this very building moving out. I'll show you again the building which has sustained some damage. You will see various floors from top to bottom where this kind of damage has taken place. There are, completely broken windows on this building. So I'm yet to assess, we are yet to know whether there is some sort of injuries that have taken place in this area. But what we know at this moment is that about an hour and a half, this is where exactly the impact, in fact, took place of that hit, the barrage of the rockets and the missiles that came in from Iran. Vishnu, go ahead.
We'll keep coming back to you in a little while from now. We're also joined by Michael Feller. Thanks, Michael, very much for being with us. In terms of how this potentially escalates, and we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but I think it is a question worth asking. If there is further escalation, how do you see it potentially going? And the reason I'm asking this is because we've already seen escalation. We've seen the US hit Iran, Iran hit Israel, 2 rounds of attacks, Israel strike back. So where is this headed?
So it's a very good question. A direct Iran to US attack isn't the only vector. It could also be through the Houthis in Yemen. Their ceasefire with the United States is over, they say, or it could be through militias, Iran-backed militias in Iraq. And one of those militia leaders has already been killed on the Iran-Iraq border. Whether that was due to Israel or the United States, we may not know for some time, but it certainly gives an excuse to, I suppose, mobilize those Iran-supported elements. And remember, there are a lot of US troops still in Baghdad. There's in addition to the presence in the Gulf, I wouldn't be surprised if Baghdad was the scene of perhaps the next round of retaliation.
Mr. Feller, I want to ask you this. There's an update and an official reaction that has come in from KSA, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, saying that they're following with great concern the developments in the sisterly Islamic Republic of Iran, represented by the targeting of Iranian nuclear facilities by US. I want to understand, how do you see the entire region now being impacted in the wake of several of these Gulf countries hosting large American troop presence, but at the same time their show of support and brotherhood to Iran? How do you see the entire region being impacted from here on?
Yeah, so they'll be furiously back-channeling Iran to avoid attacking any US facilities which may impact Gulf facilities, let alone civilians. Saudi Arabia is in a real bind because it's also hosting a large number of Hajis at the moment. It's also hosting F-16s. New US F-16s have arrived to Saudi bases in the last 24 hours.
All right,
so
Mr. Feller, let me interrupt you right there. Let me go back to Ankit, who's with us from Tel Aviv. Ankit, you were showing us the latest that is happening there right now on ground. Over to you.
Well, this is a mall, like I was telling you, in this near the university in Tel Aviv, and a lot of shops in this mall have taken a hit. I will also show you just a reminder, in fact, how things began. Remember when on 7th October, these are some of the pictures of the people, those who were taken hostage in 7 October attack that took place from Hamas. And on the other side, you will see the current impact of this crisis, which is the war which is going on between Israel and Iran. This was just about, like I said, a couple of hours back when the impact took place. You will see all these shops, completely. The glasses have been shattered, window panes out. It seems to be a restaurant where you see this impact of the strike. This is a civilian area. This is the area wherever I'm walking, I can see shards of glass all across. And even inside here, I will just try and give you a sense while we walk. In fact, a lot of these shops which have been damaged in this area, in this mall. In fact, some of the section of this has already been blocked. And as you see here, also on this side, there is damage here in the civilian areas of this. This is a shopping center. Thankfully, in fact, since morning it was shut. So I'm not sure whether, there are some reports of what kind of injuries that people have had at this place. We'll try and speak to a few, people, those who were present at that moment, or at least who came after this, because after the sirens went out, people do run out from these buildings. That another installation, in fact, one other shop, which is here, which has also been broken by the impact of this attack here in Tel Aviv. And all across at this moment, a few people I saw from those buildings which were around from India.
My house was ruined.
Your house is your house?
It was hit.
How far is it?
Here, right here. Like 200 meters forward.
That white building?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Which floor is your house?
First floor.
Yeah. So what is the damage? What happened there?
I haven't been there because I was in my mom's house, but I think it's gone. Like no house.
So where are you staying now?
At my mom's house.
At your mom's house?
Yeah, I do.
So what do you have to say about what has happened now? Do you think after America has, bombed places in Iran, do you think the war will stop, or do you still fear
I think
that
there will be more rockets, and it will be harder to for us. The Iranians will attack us harder.
Negotiations, though. I think there's going to be negotiations now.
Yeah.
I don't think Iran wants to fight the USA. Yeah, that's it. I think.
Is there fear with you guys? I mean, your house has been damaged.
I don't feel so
We're
much.
kind of used to it. We're used to it.
We're okay.
All right, thank you for speaking to me. All the best.
Where are you from?
I'm from India, Delhi, New Delhi. So like you were hearing, these two young boys, in fact, one of them whose house, I showed you the building earlier, that white building on the first floor of that building, he said his house has been damaged. Thankfully, at the time of impact, they were not here. He was at his mother's place, a little distance from where I'm reporting at this moment. But it's, as I said, it's chaotic. There are a lot of emergency services, people already on, and this is something, since the time I have come to Tel Aviv at late last night, even in this stressful situation, people are, like that boy said, they are used to it. There is some sort of training so far that people have imbibed it, and as you see, as soon as the all clear sirens signal was given, people are out. I mean, those who have their shops here which have been damaged are trying to clean that up, move on, and others are also out, in all this area. What I'll try and do, I will try and see if we can go inside and also show you the place where, in fact, some more damage has taken place after the hit. This is the inside of this mall, and there is impact also here. Largely, wherever you see the glass windows, doors, they have completely been shattered. Doors have come off, and where we are standing at this moment is where people have come back to check and assess the kind of damage. You'll see that the shop owners are speaking to the authorities, giving them a sense of the kind of damage that they have sustained. This is possibly for insurance compensation from the government of Israel. But where we are standing, you will see this salon, which has also taken a hit, and this entire civilian area, the mall here, has been damaged in the retaliatory attacks that took place just a couple of hours back from that volley of missiles and rockets which came in from Iran. 27 is what we've been told, and as we speak, and as I come out of the other side as well, you will see the streets have been blocked. There are a lot of security presence. This building also has sustained some damage, though there is a lot of tree cover there. It will be difficult to show you, but I can see an entire first floor of this building. The glasses, the windows completely broken. Also, significant damage as far as this building is concerned. So this is the situation right now in northern Tel Aviv after the retaliatory strikes that took place from Iran, once the announcement was made that United States has now officially entered this conflict and has bombed the 3 nuclear sites in Iran.
All right, thanks, Ankit, very much for sharing all of those details with us. Residential areas targeted, as we've independently and clearly been able to show with our correspondent Ankit Tyagi over there.
Malls and banks.
They're residential areas.
All of it.
This entire argument which has been made by Tehran that we aren't targeting residential areas, that's rubbish.
Busted right here.
That's been busted right here. This is our own video with our own journalist. We have seen what is being targeted over here. There is no military structure over here in that particular area. Let's go across to Hassan Zaidi, who joins us. Mr. Zaidi, thank you very much for being with us. Where exactly how exactly does Tehran intend to go with this? I mean, there have been attacks and counterattacks. Does Tehran start talking at this stage, or do you believe that Tehran will now hit American bases?
Okay, thank you for having me. When it started with residential areas in Iran. They targeted the residential areas where military generals also live. So I think Israel is the last one who can nag about Iran hitting residential areas, even after what we saw in Gaza, especially in Gaza, where every building was destroyed. It was turned into rubble over there. And now the Israelis are calling and nagging that Iran is hitting the residential areas. I think it's not fair. On the other hand, Iran is going to retaliate against the United States and all its assets in the area, in the region, in the Middle East, in the Western Asia. And this time it's not going to be like the last time when Iran hit the Ain al-Assad air base in Iraq when Iran's General Soleimani was killed. So I think this time it's going to be a very vast war, and Iran is going to hit hard. And because Israel has already started a war against Iran, so there will be 2 fronts. The air bases and all those bases in this area. And on the other hand, the Israeli entity, we cannot call it the Israeli regime, the occupied territories will definitely be hit again.
Let me put that across to Brahma Chilani. Mr. Chilani, you agree with what Hassan Zaidi is saying, that this is now going to escalate? Iran is going to, as per Mr. Zaidi, Iran is going to attack some of the American assets in the region, and America does have very vast and deep asset network there.
given the US-Iran military asymmetry, Iran would be wiser not to take on the US directly, but rather take on the US indirectly through insurgent attacks, through proxy attacks, and by other means. But it's clear that by dragging the US into yet another Middle East war, Trump has entered a dangerous phase for US and for the Middle East. It has direct implications for India. We should not forget that for India, the US-Israeli war against Iran carries greater implications than even the Ukraine war. Iran is located barely 500 nautical miles from India. From Israel, Iran is separated by buffers like Syria, Jordan, and Iraq. Iran straddles the key energy routes for India, and any disruption of those energy routes will have a severe impact on the Indian economy.
Mm-hmm. All right. And is that really your worry? We'll just come back to you, Dr. Chalani, in a moment. Let's go back to NDTV's Ankit Tyagi in Tel Aviv. Ankit, go ahead.
Vishnu, what we're trying to do, we're trying to just come up at one end of this mall to try and give you a vantage position. While all those claims about whether civilian areas have been hit in Tel Aviv, this is, Ramat Aviv, and where I am standing at this moment, the area that I was showing you from down below, this gives you, a sense, a vantage point of how the damage has taken place. I will point out to that building that you see. All these 3-4 buildings are all residential buildings. At the top of that building, you would see the entire, roof has collapsed in one of the buildings, and shattered floors on the other. Behind me as well, this is a low-rise building that is just behind me, residential area again, which has taken the impact, the hit here. Many houses that you would see broken. On the other hand, there are rescue operations which are in fact still on, cleanup operation which are still on as we speak, and all across where I can see there are security forces and rescuers, those who are on the ground, ambulances still on standby. The cleanup in fact happening. These trucks, as you will see behind me, are taking away all that in fact they can pick up from this place. So this very much is near the university here in Tel Aviv, where this hit took place a short while back, and all across at this moment, the people, those who have their houses here, not allowed to go in. Some whose houses are intact are trying to take their belongings out from that very place. Ambulances, the fire security, and security officials all across in this very residential area. This is one of the areas which has been impacted in the recent strike. We were told that about 27 missiles and rockets were launched this morning in the retaliation. There are other areas which, of course, only after the confirmation from the IDF, which would be able to tell you in Tel Aviv and other places which have been impacted. But what we can at least confirm here at this moment from where we are standing, on NDTV, that there are these places, the residential areas, which have borne the brunt of this recent retaliation from Iran. The residential quarters, houses, and also a shopping center which were targeted. Not many, thankfully, not many injuries here. 11 people total have been, we have been told, have been injured, and none of them at this moment are critical, is what the Israeli Defense Forces have put out.
Indeed, that's a very important point you made, Ankit, that most of these attacks have been in residential areas, but no fatalities or critical injuries so far. Any word on some of the other cities where there are some visuals coming in? If, Ankit, you've been speaking to people there, any update there? Some visuals are coming in about some of the other Israeli cities, if you've been able to get a word on that.
Well, the social media here is abuzz with visuals, from various parts, Haifa, Jerusalem, but as I said, till the time there is a confirmation that comes in from the security forces, it will be difficult to ascertain them. But one thing is for sure, multiple cities today were targeted. Like I said, in fact, 10 cities were targeted is what we are being told, and significant damage in civilian areas has been sustained in some of them. We are still trying to assess exactly where all, this entire strike have caused the kind of damage that we are seeing here in Tel Aviv. Remember, even yesterday, there were 5 missiles which were lobbed by Iran. All of them were intercepted by the air defense systems of Israel. But today, about more than 27 were lobbed in, out of which few have managed to penetrate the Iron Dome and the air defense systems. And the result is what we are seeing here at this moment in Tel Aviv.
Ankit, we'll come back to you in a moment. Let's go back to Dr. Brahma Chelani. Dr. Chelani, if this were to expand and become bigger, what is the course that you see this conflict potentially take?
The reality is this, that by pulling the US into a war with Iran, Trump could trigger more dangerous escalations. It's easier to start a bombing campaign, much more difficult to de-escalate and end this conflict. And I think Iran will hit back at a time and place of its choosing. It will hit the US and its regional interests. The fact that Trump has threatened that now bombed Iran must seek peace on US terms or face greater devastation. That threat clearly indicates that this attack early this morning was just the opening salvo. He wants Iran to capitulate. That will not happen, which means that this conflict will continue for a while. And as the UN Secretary General has said, that these US attacks are a dangerous escalation. And he has gone on to say that this is a direct threat to international peace and security. The fact is that for China, this is, I think, the only country that will be cheering the US involvement in yet another war is China, because we should not forget that after all, it was America's lengthy wars in Afghanistan and Iraq that helped facilitate China's dramatic rise. And the more wars US wages, the more likely it will sap its strength. And I think strengthening China, it's been the main winner from the US-Russia proxy war in Ukraine. So a stronger China to emerge from greater American involvement in the Middle East would mean a more aggressive and more revisionist China on India's borders. So again, a direct impact on India's interests.
In fact, I wanted to put that across to Michael Feller as well. Dr. Chelani speaking about China, but I'd like to speak about Russia as well. That's had close ties with Iran. They've armed Iran extensively in the past. Russia would be looking at that situation over there. They would be looking at the potential of perhaps even a regime collapse in Iran. Then there is the China factor as well. Both these countries would be very wary of what America is doing in the Middle East right now. How do you see this playing out for Beijing and for Moscow?
So I agree that China will, besides the fact that oil prices will go up this week, and China is a major Iranian oil importer. I think China will be happy to see the US mired in another Middle Eastern conflict. And Russia will as well. So I think we overstate Russia's alliance with Iran. It's a friendship of convenience, but there's no love lost between the two countries. And we've seen in recent days Vladimir Putin hedging between Israel and Iran. And in fact, he said in the last 24 hours that he considers Israel in many ways as part of the Russian sphere, because 2 to 3 million Israelis are Russian origin. And that's 2 to 3 million more people than Iran has with Russian ethnic links, I would think. So I don't think that he will miss Iran. Like, it's embarrassing to have after Syria, yet another Russian quasi-ally be embarrassed in this way. But ultimately, if this pushes up the price of oil, which it should, and ultimately if it distracts from Russia's war in Ukraine, which it should, then that's of net benefit to Mr. Putin.
That's a gain and a win for Vladimir Putin right now. Gentlemen, I'm going to slip into a very short break. Viewers, our rolling coverage continues of the latest escalation in West Asia. Donald Trump bombed 3 nuclear sites in Iran. The latest escalation, where this will go, we come back and decode all that and more. Stay with NDTV for that.
Dangerously cool. Go, stop, go. Playing this game like a tic-tac-toe. Sharp as a razor, the flavor bowl. Flip it out, they wanna fold. Keeping them coming.
Motorola Razr 60. Dangerously cool.
Hello, Moto.
Where the software engineer meets the gifted content writer to create the big dream. The world comes together at Sharda University.
Boss, I just saw Raghav walking towards the parking lot.
Movie date.
He's not going anywhere. My car is parked right behind his.
He's gone.
MG Comedy Fee, the street smart car.
11 years of putting the nation first. India is the world's 4th largest and fastest growing economy, poised for even greater heights. A confident foreign policy has earned India new respect and influence on the global stage. In science and technology, India has established itself as an innovation powerhouse, leading the digital revolution. Ease of doing business is no longer a dream. It's a reality attracting global investment. The Northeast, once neglected, now thrives with unprecedented infrastructure and connectivity. From massive infrastructure to every citizen's progress, this is a new India, driven by performance and vision. 11 years of Modi government. 11 years of vision, action and transformation.
भाई बिजनेस रजिस्टर हो गया?
यस, सिर्फ करंट अकाउंट बाकी है.
करंट अकाउंट के लिए तो SBI बेस्ट है. यूएस मशीन मिलेगा और QR कोड भी. बेस्ट कैश डिपॉजिट लिमिट, ईस्ट और वेस्ट इंडस्ट्री में बेस्ट.
सबको पता है.
SBI करंट अकाउंट बेस्ट है, सबको पता है.
Made in India aircraft, at least part of it would be going to the United Arab Emirates, to Serbia, to Indonesia, to France.
This is win-win for India in terms of the global supply chain.
Without this entire Tata collaboration, the first Rafales or whichever aircraft would start coming in 10 years from now.
Yeah, a lot of very tantalizing threads to this story, and I want to make sure that you and I, Vishnu, separate them and discuss them threadbare because it's important.
एसिडिटी, हार्टबर्न और गैस को खत्म करे कम से कम समय में और पेट को रखे कूल लंबे समय तक. Protan's. Eat happily, live happily.
I believe I can. I believe I can change the world. I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. Welcome to the Eye. I am ICFI. Belief called I. Welcome to the Eye. The ICFI.
This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV 24/7.
Hello, Moto.
Good afternoon. In case you've just tuned in, the world is a very, very different place from what it was, let us say, 10, 12 hours back. That's because the United States has made a direct entry into the war in West Asia. They have bombed 3 top Iranian nuclear sites, including Fordow, Isfahan and Natanz. The Israeli Prime Minister has called it a pivot in the history of the Middle East, since the morning, we've been trying to bring our viewers the implications of what's taken place.
Indeed, and there have been response and strikes that have taken place from Iran on key Israeli cities. Viewers, let's quickly now get in the big headlines that we're tracking at this hour.
Iran has retaliated and fired missiles at Israel after America's attack on Iran. Iran has hit multiple cities in Israel. The strikes have been targeted near the Ben Gurion airport, but may not have struck immediately at the airport itself.
Iran has hit multiple strikes in Israel, and NDTV is reporting from war zone, from ground zero, getting us all the details and including the impact of Iranian strikes on Israel.
World leaders react on America's strike on Iran. The British Prime Minister Keir Starmer says Iran must come to the negotiating table. Saudi Arabia, critical in the region, says that they're closely tracking developments in Iran, a sisterly state.
Big NDTV exclusive. Israeli ambassador speaks to NDTV. Israeli ambassador to India says more strikes likely soon and assures that there will be safe evacuation of all Indians in Israel. All right, viewers tuning in right now, the latest that is happening in the last couple of hours, there has been huge escalation that has taken place in the region. Donald Trump has bombed 3 major Iranian nuclear sites using B-2 stealth bomber jets. And since then, there has been an escalation between the strikes, Iran and Israel. Iranian strikes have impacted several key Israeli cities. And Vishnu, there's been a response that's come in from Israel as well. Questions now remain on what happens to the entire region. Will this escalate into World War III?
Well, I think before we actually talk about that prospect, and let us hope that we are not headed in that direction, let's just reflect on the military strikes itself. The video that you see on your screen is of a B-2 stealth bomber, one among several used by the Americans to strike the Fordow nuclear reactor. Natanz and Isfahan also struck. This happened in the early hours of the morning. The B-2 launched bunker buster or deep penetrator warheads, GBU-57s, particularly at the Fordow site. Fordow's, the nuclear reactor over there, built in or constructed under a mountain. We'll show you that terrain exactly through satellite imagery in a little while from now. But Natanz and Isfahan, 2 nuclear structures, over there, two nuclear sites which have also been struck, but through the use of approximately 30 Tomahawk cruise missiles launched from the Persian Gulf by American submarines and presumably warships as well. America says that the strikes have been successful. The US President Donald Trump has spoken. So has the Israeli Prime Minister. The world is watching very, very closely because what has already happened is an escalation post that escalation.
Yes.
So just sequentially what has taken place is that America has struck Iran. Iran has struck Israel. Right, there have been at least 2 rounds of ballistic missile attacks, and Israel has now also been actively targeting areas, military targets in the western part of Iran.
Indeed, and as things stand right now, those strikes, some of them have been continuing. Our reporter, our colleague Ankit Tyagi is on ground in Israel, in Tel Aviv, tracking all the latest developments. And let's in fact quickly play out this ground report of Ankit as he decodes what really is happening on ground. And as we've been saying, strikes continue, but the situation on ground, Ankit Tyagi tells us.
I can show you around here. In fact, at the time of impact when this would have happened, you can see some damage which has been sustained to these places. There is glass shattered all around. It's a civilian area near the university where the impact took place. There is glass shattered all around. This lady is also... were you here when the attack took place? Are you injured?
A little bit, yes.
What happened? Got cut by the glass?
Yeah, I cut by the glass. I was cut by the glass.
Flying shards, right? I mean, when it broke. So, this lady was here when this attack, in fact, took place. And what I will show you, those shards of glass that you can see all around at this moment. So this is one of the areas where the impact has taken place. There are shops around in this area, and we are near the university. And on the other side, you would also see, the work going on as far as the security agencies and heavy earth-moving vehicles also there. That's the building where I can also see broken glass all across where we are reporting from, which is now being completely shut off. Okay, what I will do, I will just ask Ricky to just show you on the floors, the higher floors of that building behind me, that you would see some damage as far as the building is concerned, some broken windows in that building as we speak. So this is the civilian area where this impact of the attack happened just a short while back. Massive security also. I can see, some people, in fact, moving with their baggage possibly to some safer places. But at this moment, this is the situation here in northern Tel Aviv, and where we are reporting from that the civilian areas have been damaged now. As soon as the attack happened, and this is how quickly the emergency services have reacted to this. I can see a bank. This is a bank building, and where you see the flag of Israel, the entire glass, it has been shattered there. It's completely broken because of the impact, and right now the cleaning crew is here. They are trying to clean this entire area up. We are bringing to you this news report right from northern Tel Aviv, and this is the capital city where the impact.
We go to a very special guest and come back to Ankit in a moment. We're joined by Ori Lazarovich from the National Emergency Services in Israel. Mr. Lazarovich, thank you very much for being with us. Could you give us an idea of the damage around you?
Thanks for having me. Of course, I'm not very far from where your reporter is. I'm inside the scene. As you can see behind me, we have a building complex, around 3 buildings that were directly hit by a missile. Within few minutes, we heard the loud booms from our stations and from our houses. Magen David Adom is Israel's national EMS service. While we do have guidelines, we leave our buildings, we leave the safe rooms and come on scene here as fast as possible. We have evacuated over 17 patients. Thankfully, most of them are minorly injured. We are still looking and still working here together with Homefront Command, police, and fire to make sure we haven't missed anybody. Please, I beg you guys to make sure everyone listens to the Homefront Command guidelines. Make sure you enter a safe room and make sure we have the least amount of work that we need.
Indeed. And what's the SOP that is being followed right now? You're saying that these are all residential buildings. What's the SOP that you're telling all residents right now?
Exactly. It's only residential in this area. We want to make sure everybody listens to the guidelines. When you have a siren, enter a safe room, wait there for at least 10 minutes to make sure that even if there's a second barrage or more shrapnel in the air, that you don't get hit, and leave us to do the work.
Mr. Lazarovich, in terms of the injuries that you're now seeing, are they shrapnel injuries? Are they crush injuries because people are trapped? This morning, what are some of the injuries that you've seen?
Definitely. So thankfully, this scene here, we've had mostly minor injuries, but we've definitely seen today and throughout the past 8 days, you have very, very severe injuries and scenes as well. You have patients with crush injuries, burns, smoke inhalation, everything in between. It's giant missiles. We're talking about over 1,000 pounds of dynamite TNT inside these missiles that are hitting the residential areas.
Mm-hmm. And talk to us, tell us now, what is the size of the team, the scale at which all of you are operating, the number of teams that are there. Tell us on all that preparation that is underway.
We send Magen David Adom has been on highest alert level since the war began. So that means we have 35,000 volunteers and over 2,000 ambulances that are available 24/7. On this scene here, we've had dozens of ambulances We have medical motorcycles as well, first responders with their own vehicles that leave their house that's very close. We have people from 2-3 minutes away that arrive on scene within seconds. And we've had dozens of team here on scene to make sure we can accommodate no matter how many patients we have.
So basically, you're the guys who get out onto the roads to try and save lives when everybody rushes into bunkers. That's your job, right? When the attacks happen,
exactly.
You get out to save lives, right?
Exactly. We advise everyone to stay inside, and then on that time, we leave our safe rooms and come outside the second we hear the boom, so we can come and administer help as soon as we can.
Mm-hmm. You're saying 35,000 volunteers, 2,000 ambulances, a lot of medical bikes. Are all of them right now on ground? Is the entire strength right now on ground? I want to understand, because of the scale at which these attacks are taking place. Is everybody right now on ground assisting?
Everybody is on call. Not everybody is on scene. We have to make sure we have other options, of course, for more scenes that come in. Every single personnel, and vehicle of Magen David Adom is on call, available for whenever it's needed and wherever it's needed.
Ori, you would have been, working tirelessly with your team over the last few days. I know you have to run, but one or two more quick questions. Just in terms of the intensity of the attacks and the damage that you've seen today, how does that compare with what we've seen in the last few days?
All right, I believe...
I think we've lost that line with Ori Lazarovich. Sorry,
indeed, we've lost that line. But as he was telling, Vishnu, the scale at which this preparation has been underway, because let's not forget, Israel has been in a state of war since 7th of October 2023. And since then, while there have been some moments in which there's been some possibility of normalization coming in, this has largely been the SOP for the country. And right now, these strikes, which have largely been in residential areas, as Ankit's ground reports are also telling, these are all residential areas that have been hit, which is why people like Ori are the real heroes who are protecting Israeli citizens right now.
No, that's absolutely critical, Gauri. And, it's in situations like this that the first responders are so very important. We've got our National Disaster Relief Force. They've got their own forces who sort of step out into harm's way when the missiles come raining in. Israel has been struck by Iranian missiles as well. But yes, let's be clear, Iran under attack itself. At the end of the day, let's just hope that there is peace on the ground in what is clearly the most volatile part of the world. In just a few moments from now, what I'd like to do is play out satellite imagery of the area, the Fordow area, where the missile strikes by the Americans took place. So once we have that queued up, let's come to that. Sorry, do we have that?
No, I think before that, let's quickly
before that, let's go back to Ankit Tyagi.
Let's
right,
play that,
Ankit, go ahead.
Yeah.
Let me also tell you that it seems that a few people, in fact, from the buildings which have been impacted are moving to some other areas. I can see some people packing their cars as we speak. But this is, like we have said earlier, in near the university in northern Tel Aviv, where this impact, in fact, has taken place. Okay, let me just go further in and bring you a sense of the other side of this area. This is a mall area, and this is where the maximum damage have taken place. So right in the heart of the city, here this is I'll show you the other shops which have been damaged. As far as this entire strike is concerned, many shops in this mall have been damaged, and this is exactly what we are seeing, if we just keep walking on this block. So a lot of people, in fact, trying to salvage the stuff that they have lost in this strike. Well, this is a mall, like I was telling you, in this near the university in Tel Aviv, and a lot of shops in this mall have taken a hit. I will also show you just a reminder, in fact, how things began. Remember when on 7th October, these are some of the pictures of the people, those who were taken hostage in 7th October attack that took place from Hamas, and on the other side you will see the current impact of this crisis, which is the war which is going on between Israel and Iran. This was just about, like I said, a couple of hours back when the impact took place. You will see all these shops, completely. The glasses have been shattered, window panes out. It seems to be a restaurant where you see this impact of the strike. This is a civilian area. This is the area wherever I'm walking, I can see shards of glass all across, and even inside here. I will just try and give you a sense while we walk. In fact, a lot of these shops which have been damaged in this area, in this mall. In fact, some of the section of this has already been blocked, and as you see here, also on this side, there is damage here in the civilian areas of this. This is a shopping center. Thankfully, in fact, since morning it was shut. So I'm not sure whether there are some reports of what kind of injuries that people have had at this place. We'll try and speak to a few people, those who were present at that moment, or at least who came after this, because after the sirens went out, people do run out from these buildings. That another installation, in fact, one other shop which is here, which has also been broken by the impact of this attack here in Tel Aviv, and all across at this moment. A few people I saw from those buildings which were around from India.
My house is ruined.
Your house is
yeah,
your house?
It was hit.
How far is it?
Here, right here. Like 200 meters forward.
That white building?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Which floor is your house?
First floor.
Yeah. So what is the damage? What happened there?
I haven't been there because I was in my mom's house, but I think it's gone. Like no house.
So where are you staying now?
At my mom's house.
At your mom's house?
Yeah, I do.
So what do you have to say about what has happened now? Do you think after America has bombed places in Iran, do you think the war will stop, or do you still fear
I think
that
there will be more rockets, and it will be harder to for us. The Iranians will attack us harder.
Negotiations, though. I think there's going to be negotiations now.
Yeah.
I don't think Iran wants to fight the USA. Yeah, that's it. I think.
Is there fear with you guys? I mean, your house has been damaged.
I don't feel so
We're
much.
kind of used to it. We're used to it.
We're okay.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for speaking to me. All the best.
All right, we'll keep going back to Ankit, but what we can show you now is just, let's have this up full screen. This is one of the impact points of Iran's ballistic missile attacks on Tel Aviv this morning. This actually shows the first responders, and we were speaking to one of them a few minutes back, getting into that area to try and ensure that everybody got out. Now, in Israel, because they are disciplined, they follow the rules, and they have shelters in virtually every house or every home. People did get out. There is an advanced alert system. Whenever there is an attack from Iran, they are alerted to it. People get out of their homes, they're moved into bunkers, and people end up surviving. But the extent of the damage quite significant this time around as a result of one of the most intense and sustained ballistic missile attacks by Iran on Israel in the last couple of days, not just on Tel Aviv, but we believe on other areas as well. But the devastation quite clear.
The devastation that is there.
You can see homes over there.
And residential areas, all of them being very significantly impacted by these strikes, and you're getting those visuals there, and those are first responders. We spoke to one a short while back, and he was telling about the scale at which preparations are underway, and they always are, the SOPs that are followed, the scale of the strikes that have required the number of people to come out and immediately respond. And as we've been saying, that while citizens have a clear SOP, a standard operating protocol to go and hide under bunkers and under shelters, these first responders that you're seeing on your screens are the ones that go out, help citizens, ensure that they get medical aid if needed, and ensure that all processes and protocols are followed. All right, while we keep coming back with those visuals, on your screens right now are the latest as far as the Maxar images that we've been telling your viewers in terms of the exact spot where this strike took place. So we've got Maxar images prior to the strike to tell you exactly what was the location, the scale at which this attack would have taken, and all those details. Vishnu Shom has all the details on this with perspective on why this needs to be seen in greater detail to understand the impact and its entire import.
All right, but I'd just like to clarify that these are pre-impact images. The post-impact images might take several hours to process. However, what I'd like to do is explain to you exactly the site in very high resolution imagery that the US struck today. There were three. There was Isfahan, Natanz and Fordow. The Fordow site is the critical one because, as I will show you now, it's been carved into a mountainside. So let's just zoom in to this particular image. What you see over here is this undulating structure is in fact the entire plant itself, the nuclear reactor, a lot of it is underneath this. And the image that you see here from the 19th of June actually shows a number of vehicles lined up in the near one of the entry points. There are multiple entry points into this facility, which is largely underground, as we've mentioned. So that's one image. Let's go to another image. It'll give you a clearer idea of the lay of the land. And this is the exact terrain that we are talking about over here. Let's focus on this area. You can see this entire hillside. And this is where the Americans likely struck. This is absolutely critical because this white building, and I'll come to a close-up of that in just the next few moments, is where this white building is one of the key entry points into the nuclear reactor, which has been carved into this particular site. Zoom in even more, if we can, into that particular area, right? This gives our viewers an idea of the extent of what the terrain is. As you can see, not just the white building, pan the camera if we can, from left to right over there. This gives you an idea, as I mentioned, of the terrain. It's been carved, Fordow, into this, which is why the US had to penetrate this with bunker buster weaponry, very, very high powered ordnance as well. Additional facilities perhaps up there, but it's this site which is critical, which is why we're going to go to the next image, which shows you exactly what I'm going to talk about. So remember that white building that you saw in the previous picture? This is the white building. There is an artery of roads which lead into this. This leads into the underground structures, which you cannot see. This is a uranium enrichment plant. The Americans would perhaps be worried about this being the area where nuclear weapons were potentially being developed. There is an artery of roads that you can see leading up to that one entry point over here. This is another building that you see a little further up over here. But again, you don't see any overt structures. You don't see any chimneys. You don't see any buildings because Fordow has been carved into the ground. And this is one of the main areas where people enter. There are further entry and exit points over here. Zoom in where my finger is. It's actually two further entry points. An entry point into the mountain over here and another entry point over here. I'm just wondering if we can go to the previous image because these pictures tell so much. If we go to the previous image, then it'll give you a clearer idea of the terrain over here. This is a close-up of that area which America struck.